I feel like I'm.
Good evening, citizens of Farmington Hills. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting for the Farmington Hills City Council for August 22nd, 2022. We will begin tonight, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will have our new Miss Oakland County lead us in the pledge, please.
Miss Oakland County.
And Miss Oakland County team, please go with her.
Come on.
I can't leave, I can't split the crowns. They're very cute. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is roll call.
Mayor Barnett,
Here.
Council Members Bullaware,
Here.
Bridges,
Here.
Bruce, we'll note is absent, and Knoll is also absent. Council Members Massey.
Here.
And Newland.
Here.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of the regular session meeting agenda. Dr. Massey?
Madam Mayor, I would move approval of the agenda as published.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Massey, seconded by Councilmember Bolawar. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, we'll move on to the proclamation of National Suicide Prevention Month. And Dr. Massey, would you like to read this one?
I would be happy to. National Suicide Prevention Month, September 2022. Whereas, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 46,000 people died by suicide in 2020. One death every 11 minutes, and an estimated 12.2 million adults in the U.S. thought seriously about suicide, 3.2 million adults made a suicide plan, and 1.2 million adults attempted suicide. And whereas in 2020, suicide was among the top 9 leading causes of death for people ages 10 to 64, and was the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 14 and 25 to 34. And whereas the suicide rate amongst males is four times higher than among females, and the veteran suicide rate is substantially higher than the rate among non-veteran adults in the U.S. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, sexual orientation, income level, religion, or background, and whereas we can reduce these disturbing statistics through public awareness, education, and treatment, all of which play a critical role in preventing this tragic problem that causes loss of life and terrible suffering for the families and loved ones left behind. And whereas Farmington Safe, Suicide Awareness for Everyone, is dedicated to making a difference by empowering community leaders, bringing the stigmatized topics of depression and suicide out into the open, and connecting those who need mental health assistance with the many resources that are available. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Vicki Barnett, Mayor of the City of Farmington Hills, on behalf of the City Council, does hereby proclaim September 2022 as National Suicide Prevention Month in the City of Farmington Hills, and encourages community members to talk about it in order to raise awareness of depression and suicide and work together to prevent this tragic loss, which greatly impacts families and communities.
Okay, we have 2 people, I think, receiving this proclamation, Dr. Massey and Bernard Hooper, who is with our Community Health Commission. So, okay, Mr. Hooper? Okay, so please come on up. Okay, do you want me to wait for the second proclamation so you can talk about them both, or do you want to?
I can wait for the second.
Okay. Community health is a big deal tonight. I am totally shocked at age 10. The next item is National Recovery Month. Mr. Bridges, could you read that one for us, please?
Yes, I could. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's see here to get that one. Thank you. Proclamation, National Recovery Month, September 2022. Whereas, according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. In 2020, over 40.3 million people in the United States aged 12 and older had a substance abuse disorder, 12 years and higher. Whereas, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 92,000 overdose deaths occurred in the United States in 2020, which was a 31% increase from 2019. Whereas synthetic opioids other than methadone are currently the main drivers of drug overdose deaths, showing that further education and awareness is needed about the risk and potential harm associated with prescription drug misuse. And whereas substance use disorders occur when the recurrent use of alcohol and or drugs cause clinically or functionally significant impairment such as health problems, disability, and failure to meet major responsibility at work, school, or at home. Whereas stigma and stereotypes associated with substance use disorders often keep people from seeking treatment that could improve their quality of life. Whereas substance use disorder recovery is a journey of healing and transformation that benefit both the individuals and the community by focusing on the person's ability to live, work, learn, and fully contribute to society. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Vicki Barnett, the mayor of the city of Farmington Hills, on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim September 2022 as National Recovery Month and call upon our citizens, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to increase their awareness and understanding of substance use disorders and the need for appropriate, accessible services to promote recovery.
Thank you, and we have Mr. Hooper receiving this one as well. Thank you. Thank you. You want to say a few words?
Mayor Barnett, members of the council, my name is Bernard Hooper. I'm the Chief Corporate Compliance Officer for Oakland Community Health Network. And I'd just like to say thank you for the partnership in helping to reduce stigma and to promote awareness regarding recovery and suicide prevention months. I'd also like to highlight the importance of mental health in the lives of many individuals. For those of you who are not familiar with Oakland Community Health Network, we are an organization that contracts with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and leads a provider network to serve approximately 23,000 individuals in Oakland County at approximately 300 sites. These individuals, for the most part, suffer from intellectual and developmental disabilities, severe mental illness, and substance use disorder. Our goal in working with these people is to ensure that they learn and have access to the resources that can make their lives better and prolong and make them healthier. With that said, we also intend to help them engage fully in the community, and we do so through a number of resources. We have a list of what we refer to as our goals that we're working on currently. It's important that the community know of these things because of recent events and events that we are familiar with and that we have been talking about in the news on a daily basis. We are working on currently enhanced and expanding access to non-emergent and crisis services to improve systems of care for children and families, ongoing workforce development and retention, as well as strong service provider and community partner relations, and also the successful integration of physical and mental health care coordination. With the help of community leaders like each of you, these priorities can be achieved. Your support is also key to Oakland Community Health Network in fulfilling its mission to inspire, empower, and strengthen communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming, and you serve on our Community Health Commission,
Yes.
And we are very grateful for your help in that regard and for all you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is important work. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
just one comment right now, because it seems to fit better than during council comments, and that is that SAFE is actually sponsoring our next event. It's going to be here on October the 12th, right in council chambers and the foyer out here, and it is a resource network event. So there are a large number of community resources coming here so that people can come in and interact with them, learn who's here, learn what the different organizations do, and actually make those connections before they may need them. So that's the evening of October the 12th here in the City Hall building.
Thank you very much for that information. I'm so glad that people who are role models are starting to talk about prioritizing their mental health and to take away the stigma so that we can really start to address it and make sure that everybody lives their best life possible. Next item is the Patriot Week proclamation. Mayor Pro Tem Newland, would you like to read that one? Please. Thank you.
Proclamation for Patriot Week, September 11th through 17th, 2022. Whereas September 11th through 17th, 2022 has been declared as Patriot Week in the state of Michigan, with Sunday, September 11th, 2022 declared as Patriot Day, and Saturday, September 17th, 2022 declared as Constitution Day. And whereas Patriot Week celebrates the concepts and principles put forth by our founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, which makes us the greatest nation in the world's history. And whereas the citizens of this nation live in freedom, which was gained through the great sacrifices and many tribulations of those who currently serve or who have served our country, and provide us with the foundation for a free, prosperous, and independent life. And whereas each generation must work to maintain this freedom, otherwise through careless or indifference, our right and liberties may vanish. And whereas the city of Farmington Hills recognizes and celebrates all the patriots, past and present, who have dedicated their lives to the service of others and thereby amplified a deep love and devotion to our country. Therefore, be it resolved that Vicki Barnett, Mayor of Farmington Hills, on behalf of City Council, do hereby proclaim September 11th through 17th, 2022 as Patriot Week, and call upon the citizens of Farmington Hills to come together to recognize the loyal devotion of those who have given dedicated service to our nation and made daily sacrifices to preserve a society built upon the principles of life, liberty, and justice for all.
Thank you. We have no one receiving this tonight. We will make sure that we get it to our first responders. And I want to thank them all for what they do in our community, our police officers, firefighters, and our dispatchers. Next item on the agenda is, these are blue slips. And the blue slips you can find in the back on the wall. And the reason for the blue slips is to speak on items that are currently not on the agenda that you want to relate to us. I mean, the blue slips are to use for items that are on the agenda that you want to speak for, and that's why they have an agenda number. So, Pam, I know you've been here for a long time, and you do not have to fill out a blue slip to speak during public questions and comments. So if you are here to speak during public questions and comments or for a public hearing, you do not need to fill out a blue slip, okay? So, but thank you for doing that, because then we can easily put it in the records. So for those of you that may want to speak on an item that's on the agenda, please feel free to pick up a blue slip and hand it up, and we will call on you when that agenda item pops up. Tonight or any other night that you come to a city council meeting. Next item on the agenda is, this one's fun. This one always gives me joy. It is the introduction of Miss Oakland County, Lila Cipher, and Miss Oakland County's outstanding teen, Alexis Ulmer, and they are here tonight with the Miss Oakland County Director, Francesca Tuzzolino. So I will call you up, please.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. Excited to be here. First, for those who don't know, we are part of the Miss America organization, which is the largest organization that provides scholarship assistance to young women between the ages of now 19 to 26, because they've changed the ages for the Miss program. But we are a preliminary local pageant for the Miss America organization. So luckily, this past year, our Miss Oakland County that came to compete at the state level at Miss Michigan won the job of Miss Michigan. So finally, 15 years later, Oakland County has another Miss Michigan. Woohoo! The last time we had one was Kirsten Hagelin from Farmington Hills that became Miss America in 2008. So you can just see we are extremely excited. Not only did Melissa Byron become Miss Michigan, but she also was the preliminary talent recipient. She also was the Onstage Question Social Impact Initiative statement winner and also Excellence in Interview Award recipient as well. So she walked away with lots of scholarship money, over $10,000 in scholarships at the state level. And now she's going to represent our beautiful state at Miss America in December. We don't know the date yet, but it will be at the Mohegan's Casino in Connecticut right before Christmas in December. So I'm excited to attend. And if anybody wants to attend, just let me know, get your information. You go to our Facebook page, Miss Oakland County Facebook, and you'll find my contact information there and reach out to me that way. So I'm really excited for that. So lots of good things have happened in Oakland County program with Miss Michigan. And also we just had our new title holders crowned not too long ago in August. Well, that was not too long ago at all. It's still August, sorry. But on August 7th, and the two new title holders who represent our phenomenal county is here with us, and I'll let them introduce themselves to you.
Thank you.
Well, hello, my name is Layla Seifer, and I am Miss Oakland County. I am 20 years old, and I live in Oxford. I'm getting ready to begin my senior year at Rochester University, where I'm studying mass communication. At Rochester, I am also a competitive cheerleader, the president of our sorority, and the student body president. So all of my titles are about serving those around me and serving my community. So I am just so excited about this year and being able to serve all of you and everyone else in Oakland County. My social impact initiative that I'm working on this year is called Your Vote is Your Voice, and it's all about educating the young adults in our community to become informed, register, and of course vote on election day. So I'm really excited that this year is the midterm election, so I have a big election coming up that I can encourage more young adults to participate in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexis Ulmer. I am 17 years old, and I'm a senior in the Clenara Off-Campus Educational Program. And my social impact initiative is #FoodFreedom, preventing eating disorders in today's teens. Because growing up in the dance world, I've had a lot of close friends suffer from eating disorders, so I've decided to fight this using social media, which is the source of a lot of teens' negative body perception. And I'm already doing this through my Instagram account at FoodFreedomSII, where I post daily affirmations and positive quotes and provide a positive space for anybody that needs help. And I also partake in Wallpaper Wednesdays and Fun Food Fridays, where I take suggestions from my audience and bake them in a video and show people that eating is supposed to be fun. And all of this helps me achieve my goal of helping people live a full life on a full stomach. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. We're very happy to have you here. My daughter and the current state representative was very involved in the Miss America program and the preliminaries in several states where she lived and worked. And what I learned during her participation was that not only is this a scholarship program, but it really is an opportunity for young women to build relationships with mentors and other young women to support each other, to provide a network for you to go back to and actually improve your networking ability and your ability to really get ahead in the business world later on in life. And those are opportunities that don't come too often, and women are beginning to recognize more and more that we need to help each other, that It's no longer just a man's world. And so we're very happy to have you participate, and we wish you all the best this year as our representatives. And I know you wanted to have a picture taken with all of City Council, so if you don't mind if we indulge them for just a few minutes, we will step down and do that and then come back. We're still on TV though, so. Okay, now we're getting it.
Is it because you find the proclamation so exciting? With a big sigh. Oh, yeah.
Scott, did you ever want it? I got it. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, back to exciting business.
Well, I have something to add.
Okay.
So for the public to know out there, you have two mothers of two prior Miss Oakland counties up here. So it is a very unusual thing. And I have to say, not only do the girls inspire us, but my daughter inspired me to sit up here. So thank you.
And we're registered to vote. We want habitual voters. That's people who vote in every single election and are informed. So thank you very, very much. We wish you the best. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. Does council have any correspondence to report that we all didn't receive? No. Nope. It's been a kind of quiet week. Not bad. Next is consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda for consideration. The Mayor Pro Tem, Mary Ellen Newland, will now read the consent agenda as published.
I have a blue slip for item number 10.
Okay?
So the consent agenda is published this evening. Number 10, recommend approval of establishing traffic control order P-174, 2022, to prohibit stopping, standing, and parking on Kendallwood Drive and Brandywood Road, and rescind traffic control order P-161, 2005, that prohibits stopping, standing, and parking on Kendallwood Drive between Brandywine Road and Ridgewood Road. This is CMR 82276. Number 11, recommend approval of establishing traffic control order P-175, 2022, to prohibit parking on Randall Street. This is CMR 82277. Number 12, recommend approval of establishing the 13-mile road water main payback district, Valley Road to Wellington Drive. This is CMR 82278. Number 13, recommend approval of a special event permit for the Icecon Temple to hold a color festival on September 18, 2022. Number 14, recommend approval of a request for employment under section 10.01A of the city charter for a building attendant.
Okay? Yes,
I have a motion for you.
okay.
Madam Mayor, I move that council approve the consent agenda as read by the Mayor Pro Tem Doolin.
Okay.
Mayor, number 10 has to be removed from the agenda. So it'd be items 11 through 14 that would be,
Okay,
Tell me why.
we had a request from the public to speak on item
Oh, I
number
didn't know
10.
that. Oh, my
Yeah.
fault.
that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I would revise my motion to move that council approve consent agenda item 11 through 14.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by Dr. Massey, that we approve items 11, 12, 13, and 14 on the consent agenda. This is a roll call vote.
Council members Bolaware,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Newland,
Yes.
Massey,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes. And item
Mary,
10?
you need to give that to the mayor.
And item 10, we have, oh, actually, this is for 10 and 11.
Oh, 10.
Okay, well, 10 was circled. Okay. Traffic control order. Ms. Gerald?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, to the city council members, to all of the other appropriate staff that operates this city extremely well. And I love the fact that you work as a team. For a lot of the people that don't understand what a traffic control order is, a traffic control order, and you can correct me, Madam Mayor, is what the city needs to be able to go on private property to issue tickets for parking in a place that's a non-designated parking area, for possibly speeding and doing reckless types of driving in these private property areas or subdivisions. I'm totally in favor of traffic control orders because we have in all of the subdivisions, I think, with the construction that's going on, we have a lot of trucks and a lot of traffic. People are trying to avoid these construction stops and these detours, and they don't understand the importance of driving slow in our subdivisions. I see kids out there riding on their bikes with their parents. And you know, the little kid that's on his training wheels or just got his training wheels off, he's driving or riding ahead of the parents. And then all of a sudden, here's a car that gets too close to these kids or people walking. I've seen, even in my subdivision, where people have had to like jump on the grass because the cars were too close with their dog or with their kids, or an older person walking with the cane. So any traffic control order that you can put in all of the city of Farmington Hills and all of these subdivisions, I think would only be a plus. People need to slow down. You know, you leave early, you can arrive alive to where you're going. And that's so important. If you have to be there at 2 o'clock, don't leave at 1:15. Leave about 12:30, and you can cruise, sightsee, look at all your dollars at work for the construction, but don't risk your life and the life of others driving really fast. I really just want people to slow down. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you. These traffic control orders also include Kendallwood subdivision, which is having a lot of parking on streets during school pickup hours, which is really blocking people's ability to get in and out of their own driveways. And there's ample parking and drive-through areas for the STEAM Academy off of 13 Mile Road. So thank you very much. So we need a motion to approve item 10.
Madam Mayor, I would move that we approve consent agenda item number 10 as read by the Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Massey, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Newland and Councilmember Bolaware. This again is a roll call vote. Any discussion?
Regular vote.
Seeing none?
Yeah, regular vote, since it was pulled from consent.
Okay, it's a regular vote now. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it passes 5 with 2 absent. Next item on the agenda is public questions and comments. Again, you do not have to fill out a blue slip, but we want you to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. So if you would like to say something, the microphone is here. Please come up. We will now open the public questions and comment period. I see somebody walking up.
A lonely walk. All righty.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Barnett and City Council members and staff. Yes. My name is Brianna Bollinger, and I'm here on behalf of Explore Academy, a tuition-free public academy authorized by CMU, and we will open our doors to the public to students in September of this year for students in grades 6 through 8. The school will add 1 grade level per year and will eventually become a 6 through 12 program. And the school will be located on Plymouth Road in Livonia and will serve students from many districts. Because we're a state-sponsored school, we can serve students outside of district lines. So we do have students enrolled from Farmington Hills, Livonia, Redford, all around this area, and neighboring communities as well. And the school is founded on the Explore Learning model, which provides an individualized education to each student through the power of student choice. The founder of the model was a teacher in traditional public schools, and he noticed that students were always more invested in his curriculum when they were taking elective classes that they got to choose versus classes that they were forced to be in, like their general education, science, English, math classes. And from that observation, he designed the educational model that our school is built around, the framework. And student choice has been successfully implemented in many schools. This exact Explore Learning model has been implemented in other schools as well. And the framework is built on dividing year-long courses into several shorter seminars. And each seminar covers a subset of the Michigan state standards instead of covering the whole year's standards for that course. Instruction, assessment, and grading are all truly standards-based in this model. And what students really care about is not the standards, but it's that each course is offered, each seminar is offered through multiple themes or what we call flavors. So students get their choice of their flavor through their education. So to give you a couple examples of that, while all students are learning the same geometry standards, they might be taking Picasso art geometry and studying geometry through shapes in Picasso paintings. Or they might be taking designing a zoo, where they design their own zoo and they use geometric concepts to study the shapes of the different enclosures. In another example, in science, in the geology standards, students may choose a seminar called Invent a Planet, where they invent their own planet with its own geology and study that way. Or they may choose Rocking and Rolling, which is geology through the ideas of music. Additionally, the seminar structure encourages two-way discourse between teachers and students, eliminating the teacher as the sole source of information. And through the power of choice in the classroom setting and the classroom interactions that the teachers are able to develop, students are actively engaged in their learning. And it's not just flavors that we cook up in the admin office. Each teacher gets to design their own flavors, which also cultivates teachers who really care about what they're teaching and can connect passionately with the students who are interested in the same thing as them. Students entering grades 6 through 8 can enroll now in our school. We still have open seats for this fall. And it's a great school model, and I really believe in it. I wouldn't be here on a Monday night telling you all about it if I didn't really believe in it. And it's worth taking the time to learn more about it. And we invite this council and the entire community of Farmington Hills and the surrounding communities as well to join us for our ribbon cutting ceremony at the school building on Thursday, September 1st at 4 p.m. And after the ribbon cutting ceremony, there will be school tours, free food, games, karaoke, music. It's going to be fun. You don't want to miss it. And I actually have some flyers here with some more information about our school model and about enrolling and all of our upcoming events that I'd love to give to you all. And if anyone in the audience has any questions or a 6th through 8th grader that they'd like to enroll, I'd love to chat with you.
Thank you very much. I would have really liked geometry through the use of Tinker Toys. I know, really. I didn't get a chance. Thank you. Anybody else want to speak during public question and comment?
Last Monday, when I was here, I asked a question of the council, members of the city, and the people that were in the audience at the time. You remember an incident where the city of Farmington Hills got what I'm going to call some unnecessary publicity that was insulting and embarrassing. And Madam Mayor, if I could rehash it, I would like to do that.
Briefly.
We had an instance where Boy Scouts came to the city of Farmington Hills, and it was alleged that a 7 or 8-year-old boy happened to see some African-American shooting target sheets and was upset about it. I am African-American. I do not believe that a child that age was able to identify any kind of significance about seeing a black man on a shooting range sheet. So last week, I brought in, and I'm a very good shot, by the way. You can see that these shots are all center mass. I brought in my sheet, and this is the sheet that I shot with. Now, can you look at this sheet and tell what nationality this person is? He could be white. My husband is Caucasian. He could be Latino, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Italian, or he could be another nationality. When I shot on this sheet, I wasn't even thinking about it. I saw a man, they said that's the target, and shoot, and I shot center mass. I just hope that people stop trying to turn a situation, make everything about race and discrimination, because we do know that we have some issues in our world and in our society. We do have a problem with racism, discrimination, lack of greater inclusion and diversity, unequal equity, unequal pay. But don't take a situation like that, involve a child, go straight to the media and get a lawyer. If you have a problem with something in this city, we have appropriate people in this department, in this city, in every department that you can go to talk to first before you go to the media. Let's not cry wolf when it's not that issue, and make it when there is that issue that people downplay it because they hear it so much. It's real. The feelings about it are real, but don't involve children in your adult stuff. They have no place in it. Thank you.
Thank you. I love having a city council booster. Thanks, Ms. Gerald. We really appreciate it. Next item, is there anybody else for public questions and comments? Seeing no one, we will close the public question and comment period and move on to council member comments and announcements. Dr. Massey?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm probably usurping a little bit about what you may say, but earlier this evening, a number of us had the opportunity to attend an employee recognition ceremony for our employees who have been with us between 10 and 35 years, which is that's an undertaking in and of itself. But we also had some of our outstanding employees, and I just wanted to raise that one of the great things about this community is that we've got great people in our staff that do wonderful things. And for those of us that sit up here, it makes our job very easy because the folks that work for this city do wonderful things. But I just wanted to bring up, first of all, we had 4 outstanding employees: Stephanie Keimer, Tammy Gushard, Jessica Guzman-Dunn, and Daniel Monicelli. These were our outstanding employees of the year, and they're selected by their other peers, by other employees. The firefighter of the year and the police officer of the year, both, if you listen to the chief's these were amazing stories of how these individuals were selected and what they had done for the community, including rushing into buildings on fire and saving people and those types of things. Just really impressive stories. Firefighter of the Year is Lieutenant Brian Hewitt, and our Police Officer of the Year was Sergeant Ryan Yout. And then our Outstanding Employee of the Year was Jennifer Robertson, and she is the Communications Director for the Police Department. So if you want to get in touch with if you need a police officer, firefighter, EMS, it's her division that is responsible for making sure the right resources get to the right places in a very timely fashion. And I wish I had time to go through all of the folks that did wonderful things for this community, but I was impressed to listen to these stories, and I just wanted to publicly announce that. And then, as I said before, SAFE has our big event for resources here at City Hall. Again, that's October the 12th, and it runs from 6:30 to about 8:30.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Anyone else? I will just do a quick ditto. It was great to be at the Employee Awards. We haven't been able to hold them in person for a while, so it was nice to finally unmask and gather together at the Hawk, which is the former Harrison High School, and to be with our employees who are doing such a great job. And they all, to a person, commented that they couldn't do their job without their colleagues. And so the family that we're growing here as employees is really important, and it was gratifying to see everybody coming together for such a wonderful event. Next item on the agenda is the city manager update. I will turn it over to Gary Mechchen.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So just real quick, have a couple things. Just to remind everybody, the City Open House is scheduled for October 8th from noon to 3 p.m. Here on the Municipal Complex. Our Makerspace workshop at the Hawk, we're going to have a ribbon cutting on September 12th, and that starts at 5:30 and goes until 7 p.m. again at the Hawk. And then I'm going to ask City Council to hold the following dates open if hopefully everyone's available. Please hold September 13th for the joint meeting between Farmington Hills and the Farmington Public School Board. And then please hold 9/6 for the special meeting for City Council to review the organizational readiness assessment from our DEI consultants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a public hearing. Item number 8, public hearing and consideration of amendment to a planned unit development, number 5, 1993, including site plan 58-4-2022, located at the southeast corner of 12 Mile Road and Investment Drive. And our planning director is here.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. We'll see if I can walk and chew gum at the same time here, see if I can get this up. Oh, there we go. Great. I am Charmaine Kettler-Schmaltz, Director of Planning and Community Development, here to introduce the amendment to PUD 5, 1993, along with Site Plan 58-4-2002. And before I dive into that, I just wanted to mention that I also have with me this evening our city planner, Eric Perdonic, who will be available to answer questions if any should arise. A little background. This evening is the consideration of this request to develop a part of an 18.11 acre parcel to use this site to have two 4-story buildings with associated parking. Each proposed building is 150,000 square feet. Working on it. And we will have information, details on the plan by the applicant and our planning consultant from Giffords Webster. Wanted to also mention that our Planning Commission did review this at a public hearing July 21st, 2022, and did unanimously recommend approval to City Council, which brings it to your agenda this evening. Don't know what else we're supposed to do. All right. At this point, I will introduce the applicant. I believe representative from Yamasaki is here to give you some information. You've got some information on the PowerPoint, correct? Yeah? Okay. Can we minimize? Okay. All right, all done. We'll get it switched over in just a sec.
Right there.
Okay. Huh? Yep. Oh, all right, we'll give it a go. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Santner. I'm a principal at the Yamasaki Architects and have had the pleasure over the last 20 years being involved in this project and virtually every project in the campus. And it's nice to see it come to fruition and come to this significant project we have before you here today. So our, if you want to.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. We have also, in addition to myself, we have John Ackerman from Atwell sitting next to me, and Chris Kajoyan from Kajoyan Properties, ownership, representing ownership, and maybe even another one here. Maybe not, Tony Antone, also from Kajoyan Properties, also present with us today. So I'm going to figure out how to manipulate this here in a minute. Do you know how to move on to the next slide here? Just there, okay. Okay, that's easy enough. Anyway, let's see if I can. Okay, so I have control of the pointer. Beware. We're talking about these two buildings here in this proposal, the 250,000 square foot buildings, 4 stories each. They are accessed from the corporate drive here. I think it's corporate drive, and then another curb cut here. So there's 2 points of access, which we have an access drive along the southern portion of the development, which is above a detention basin, which serves, regional detention basin, which serves most of this portion of the development, multiple projects within this portion of the development. Within this project being under the PUD is significant in that we're locating the buildings in this position to work within an existing framework of limiting or allowing 4 stories, 55 feet in height under the original PUD, provided that we are able to build this project at a first floor elevation of 860. And that's probably one of the most important issues here today is the height of the building. The buildings meet the 55-foot height identified in the PUD originally and the 4 stories, but are, because of the nature of the grade in this area, are at 864, which is 4 feet higher than the 860 identified in the PUD document originally. These buildings here, this is exactly at 860, this elevation. This is slightly lower. And this building is also 860 elevation and the 50 to 55 feet, within a couple feet of 55 feet on that building. And this building is also between 50 and 55 feet. These 2 buildings on the south. I'm missing the cursor here. I apologize. Oh, there it is. These 2 buildings are between 50 and 55 feet also, and 860 elevation on this building here. So, you know, in our proposal, we feel this request is a minor deviation from the language and intent of the PUD, in that the buildings already exist on the campus within this PUD framework that are at 4 stories and between 50 to 55 feet. And this building these proposed buildings are in keeping with that same pattern that's been developed to date. The height also allows us to create a more compact floor plan, which allows us then to preserve perimeter area as green space, which further enhances the buffering quality from 12 Mile Road and the residences which are north of 12 Mile Road, which was part of the original concerns of the PUD, that these buildings have ample green space to allow them to be buffered from the neighborhoods north of the 12 Mile Road. Let's see, I'll go further here. Okay, this just shows a detail of a close-up of the landscape. The green area at the perimeter is buffering it from the north, from the east and west as well, and shows the development of the landscape on the interior to break down the large fields of parking that are associated with the project. There's the rendering of the facades of the building. And that's it that we have in there. You want to add anything to it, John? No?
Here to answer any questions.
Okay, we're here to answer questions. If you want to, Chris, you want to add any more to?
Hi, my name is Chris Kajoyan with the Kajoyan Companies out of Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. I just wanted to add, we're excited. This is kind of the last piece of the puzzle for this larger development. So we're looking forward to developing this, maybe bringing another headquarter user to the 12-mile corridor, to our development here. And as Robert laid out, we're really here just to talk about the 4-foot height difference from grade, where the building is sitting. So as you mentioned, we're here to answer any questions. John's here as well for some technical questions, so we're all yours. Thank you.
Okay, does any council member have a question now, or would you like to hear from our consultant?
I'd like to hear from
Okay,
our consultant first.
okay. In case you at home are wondering what we're looking at, we have a screen right here that displays what you're seeing back there on a good day.
Today's a good day.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Rod Arroyo with Giffords Webster, the city's planning consultant. I'm going to be reviewing our letter of August 4th. Just going to go over a couple of slides that are presented here. This shows the existing zoning. You can see the area that this is a little bit different from the item you have next. This is a PUD that was previously approved in 1993, and they're here before you to amend that PUD for some of the specifics associated with this particular plan. You can see in that lighter blue boundary, that's the boundary of the PUD itself. And as we go through a couple of these slides, you'll get a little better perspective. So this is an aerial photograph. You can see some of the existing office developments that are in place within this PUD that are located to the west. This aerial in particular is more recent, gives you a really good perspective. So to the east on your right side there, you see the Mercedes financial building, which was completed fairly recently. Just west of that is the JST site, which is currently under construction. And then you see the subject property, and you see there's some staging going on for the work on the JST on the subject property. And then you can see the existing office buildings that are located to the west, and then 12 miles to the north, 696 to the south. And then this is the site plan. So the applicant, I think you've already heard that there's a request as part of this PUD for additional height that would be allowed by the existing PUD agreement. The ordinance itself allows for 50 feet and 3 stories within the OS4 district. In this particular instance, they're asking for 55 feet, which the PUD agreement allows, but it only allows in certain circumstances, as the applicant indicated, where you've got a ground elevation that's low at 860 feet or lower. In this case, they are as high as 864, so it's like a 4-foot differential. So they're asking to be able to keep that height that's already been approved on a specific area
where it wouldn't otherwise be allowed. And then they're also asking for 4 stories to be incorporated within the development. And so our letter does go in on page 3 of our letter. We do talk about the specifics in green of the PUD agreement and the 860 feet. So you have that background. And if you have more questions on that, I'll be happy to try to answer those. And then there's a couple of minor site plan issues that can be handled administratively. So that in a summary are the issues that are associated with this, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Okay, this is an item for public hearing. Does anybody have any questions so far?
I have a question there.
Yes, Mr. Bridges.
Thank you, Rod, for the presentation. Appreciate it. It noted in the Giffel-Webster report, there are some areas that are not filled in. Every area of the plan itself, there's been proposals and recommendations regarding certain specifications, but in certain, there's areas that there's no comment on. There was specifically on the landscape plan, large shrubs, small shrubs. This is on page 5.
Sure. That means there's no issue associated with those, or either that or it's not applicable. In this particular instance, we've looked at the standards that have been provided, and we are satisfied that it meets the requirements.
So that will be their plan will meet our requirements, you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. And same thing for, I think I saw something about illumination of lighting, something similar to that as well.
Yeah, that actually is, there's some additional information that they need to submit to satisfy the lighting. And the Planning Commission's recommending that be reviewed administratively if this project is approved. They would just submit that to the Planning Department, and then we would review that. That happens a lot with plans. There's sometimes minor site plan issues. That's not really an issue associated with the PUD approval. It's really the site plan approval. So that's something that can be done administratively, because that's just checking off a box as to whether or not it meets the ordinance or not.
But they will meet our specifications on that.
But they will meet our specifications.
The other question, when was the master plan updated for the current height allowed there? When was that done?
Well, actually, it was the zoning ordinance that was amended. I'm thinking it was about 2 years ago, maybe about that, where roughly 2 years ago, we came in, it could be 3. COVID's kind of thrown me off in terms of time frames.
It's close to 3.
It's 2 or 3 years ago. We, at the Planning Commission level, working with the Planning Commission, came forward with some studies about changes in the way offices are being constructed.
Right.
And how ceiling heights are higher. And in order to stay competitive in the market, then we felt it was appropriate for the city to amend the zoning ordinance to allow for greater height.
What could you tell us? I'm sorry, cut you off. What did we go from what? Where were we previously, and where did we go from? Where are we at right now, currently?
My recollection is that in the OS4 district, we may have gone from 40 to 50 feet. I know we went to 50. I just don't 100% remember. I think it was 40 feet before. Could have been 45. I just can't remember precisely. The reason for that, and we did not increase the number of floors. We only increased the height in order to get that consistent ceiling height within the district. So it was either a 5 or 10 foot increase. I just can't remember. Every district was a little bit different, and I just can't quite remember what this one was.
If I remember correctly, that was to accommodate the increased cabling and electrical systems and internet services that have to go through, which they need an extra height for that cabling system and to get all the electrical work packed in. So we didn't increase the floor numbers, but we increased the height to accommodate the increased electrical and internet and infrastructure load that these buildings are now taking on.
In the future, is it possible? I think that type of narrative will be helpful in our report going forward. That type of discussion should be included in the report. What was it before? When was it done? And the rationale the mayor just provided was helpful as well, too. I remember those discussions we had, but it would have been helpful if that was in the report itself as part of the background material of this.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Going forward, we could. I know that, so this is going to be on 12 Mile Road, right? And it's going to be in a Cojan property there. There's a lot of activity occurring around there right now.
There is.
And these are some large this is a fairly sized new office project, and which would be great for our community, no question about that.
Right.
And we know about existing office space on that road also that's partially occupied or have some challenges because of the changing economy. And, you know, so my job, of course, is to assess if this particular project fits with our ordinance and is something that's in the city's public interest. So have thoughts in regards to that, in regards to that situation there, regarding we have existing office space on 12 Mile Road that's not currently occupied or partially occupied. I know this is a newer structure. Everybody wants to live in something new, and it's be great for the community, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that particular point.
It's an excellent question. You're right. As you drive through many of these office buildings, you see a lot of empty parking lots. A lot of that is still due to some of the transition from COVID to where there's partial return to office. Also, though, and what we heard from the applicant, and we've heard this in other instances, in this particular instance, this proposal is because you have a large user that wants a building a certain way. And so a large user that wants a building to occupy that has certain specifications.
Okay.
So that's something that's not found in the market.
All right.
And so that's what typically drives a lot of, particularly in this market today, a large construction like this of this many square feet of office typically is not going to be a spec building. It's going to be a building and so that's our understanding. I know the applicant could probably speak to this as well, is that there is a particular tenant that has certain specifications and they can meet that by constructing a new building, whereas they can't find it with existing construction.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, the point is, because maybe it may have some spillover effect on those other office buildings that maybe help encourage them, incentivize them to do some things to be more viable in regards to those existing properties.
And not only that, retail, as you recall, the property directly to the west here, that little blank piece you see there, that's approved for retail and restaurant development. And this plan has pedestrian connections on the west side there and also up to 12 Mile to get pedestrians into the network. So that will enable the folks that are in this office building to be able to walk to those restaurants and retail businesses once they're constructed. In addition, to the east, in front of the Mercedes property, there's pad sites there that were approved as part of that development that could, in the future, also hold some type of service type of business that these folks who work in these offices could then patronize. So there's a lot of potential for synergy here with the different uses that are happening to try to get both motorized and non-motorized connections between uses.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, any more questions right now? Okay, I will now officially open the public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak, please keep your comments limited to about 3 minutes, and we'd love to hear from you.
I thought the building looked really, really nice, but I have just a few questions because I'm not really savvy about this whole process. Number one, I wanted to know if the building was going to be LEED certified gold, number 4. That's the first question. Number 2, once you approve a development, how long does that approval stay on the books? So if this was approved in 1993, are you going off the same approval, or was there a process that basically had to be redone because the approval was outdated? And then in this development, the style development, a PUD, I'm not sure if you offer, allow, or entertain brownfield credits, tax incentives, and if so, would it be fair?
Those are good questions. I can turn it over to the attorney, but let me give this a try. This is a PUD, which is a planned unit development that was first came to us in 1993, and the original planned unit development was approved. This is asking for some changes in that, which requires legal changes in the planned unit development process in the contract, because this is zoning by contract, is what we're doing here. So in order to do what they are proposing to do, they need to get changes in the original planned unit development, which runs with the land. And so there are some that are very old that we have to modify, some that are very young that we have to modify, but when they are planned unit developments that are signed contracts and contractual zoning, in order for them to make any changes at all, that requires a legal review, and it must come before City Council to approve the changes in the contract. So it's perpetual until there's a change that we then, both parties, agree to make. And so you'll see several of these during the year that come up because there have been some minor changes or major changes. The other question was, are there brownfield? This has never been developed land, so there's never been anything on it, so it is considered a green field at this point, and so there would be no tax credits for the green field. However, that doesn't mean they can't seek out energy credits for building a more sustainable type of building with the new law that passed, and seek out grants and credits for energy efficiency and other modifications. That would be their choice, not ours. And so we will get more information on, as they explain the building to us a little more, on those answers. So I hope I've answered those questions.
You did, and you asked about the utilities part of it, but I'm still concerned about, I think this gentleman's concerned about it being so close to the body of water. What are they going to do to stop that? Was it a retention pond? Okay, is it, okay, I'm just concerned about the water in the retention pond, and is it going to cause a problem if there's any rain or it floods? Is it going to be a problem that they're addressing the possibilities and the futuristic probabilities?
The general reason for retention ponds is to do exactly what you hope they do, and that is to retain the water that is generated on the parking lot and other areas, the roof lines and everything else, to hold that extra water into these retention ponds. Sometimes they're empty, then after a major rain they can fill up, and they're designed to a particular standard of, and they can change over time, and we've had to change floodplain maps in our community. So when a developer builds a building, whether it's a house or whatever it is, or a construction project, they have to retain all of the runoff water on their property, and they cannot interfere with neighboring developments. And that's the goal.
Well, I just hope that they're LEED certified, but the building is, it's beautiful, very state of the art. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will now officially close the public hearing and bring it back to council for questions or comments, or a motion. Dr. Massey?
I have some, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a few questions for the proponents, so if you, whoever would like to handle them. First of all, this is a very, between the two buildings, it's a large development that looks to be 1,000 square feet of building space. And my first question is, do you already have a tenant identified for this?
Hi, again, it's Chris Cajoin with Cajoin Companies. So we have a particular user that we've been talking to. We actually have a few people interested in this parcel. We're actually seeing that this 12-mile corridor for us is the busiest in our portfolio right now. It's a little bit of a chicken and egg. They want to see that the city is supportive of this project. We can get the approvals necessary before they're willing to commit to come to Farmington Hills. But we are seeing a lot of activity in the marketplace, whether it's consolidations from multiple properties or larger users consolidating into one building. So we are in serious talks with an end user, but we're not ready to take the next steps until we have these approvals and we show to them that we can actually.
So the answer is no.
We have a prospect for the building.
So the reason I asked that, and I'm kind of playing on my colleague, Mr. Bridges' comments, that right now, I'm not seeing a huge, well, I'll use myself as an example. I haven't been in my office for well over 2.5 years. It's got, you know, so people are choosing different ways to work. To put in 300,000 square feet of building space, and when I'm driving down 12 Mile, I see a lot of very open opportunities for more buildings. I'll be straight up, I don't want empty buildings. I want to see, well, but if this is going to be kind of a spec thing, I have some concerns about that.
No, so it's not going to be spec, and I just wanted to jump in. I apologize for interrupting you. We don't want to see empty buildings either. So.
Are these traditional office buildings?
Sorry?
Is this a traditional office building? Or is this built for, like, there are opportunities now that technology firms like things that have high bays and higher ceilings, that there can be alternative uses. So how are these buildings being structured so that the uses could be different?
So right now, it's intended as a build-to-suit project. So we have the shell and the layout of our site, and once that end user commits to one or both of the buildings, or a portion of a building, we will finalize their interior build out. But right now, it's a traditional office building. We do have the architect here who can get into the specifics of that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think this goes back to our request for the additional height, because in order to compete for those larger tenants, they expect a higher floor-to-floor height, not only for the technology and the distribution of services, as was mentioned, which is absolutely correct, but also because the way we use technology in the office space and how indirect lighting has to be provided, and higher spaces are more conducive to that. So in order to attract those big users that are in the market right now, we have to provide that additional height, and hence our request for the additional height for these buildings, as was other developments within the community. So that's how we compete within the marketplace. In terms of, well, I don't want to, but in terms of the building sustainability, the building's been designed with sustainable principles in mind as our best practices for just about any architectural firm and engineering firm. The tenants that come here are all looking for a platform for to do their build out in the sustainable goals and targets that they have as firms, large corporations. So we provided a platform that will allow them to do a lead build out within their shell structure. And that's subject to the negotiation of the lease and what improvements are, if any improvements that are beyond, that's really part of the tenant's requirement or their scope. In terms of the site, I think most of that detention area is, again, designed as part of this entire campus by our design team, and it's all contemplated to, as was mentioned, resolve the stormwater issues on site and release them at a rate at which the system can manage. So I think that one is easy to respond to.
From the sustainability perspective, you're in a LEED gold certified building right now. We have no connection. We have geothermal heating and cooling because when we built this, we went ahead and put that in. Any anticipation of planning ahead for something like that?
Not for that level, but all these buildings are designed per the new energy code and with anticipation of tenants being able to provide their build out to whatever LEED level they're, as an organization, interested in providing as their corporate mission. So.
Okay, another concern I have here is these are very traditional buildings. The elevations look nice, but one of the problems, one of the things that we're doing as a city, and you may have already heard this, is we're reviewing our master plan for land use. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we're looking at is the ability to have mixed use development. Mm-hmm. From the answer that I just had, that sounds like this is traditional office, so the ability to have mixed use in here seems a little limited. And I did notice that our peers on planning asked questions like walkthroughs to seems like a retail space next door. And as you get ready to answer that, or address that comment, the other thing I'm looking at is a sea of asphalt. This is like, do you need all these parking spaces, or have you looked at other ways to park cars? Because that's a lot. And as you drive down 12 Mile, you'll see these buildings that are set back with this massive parking lot that's not being utilized for anything right now. And just paving over our property sends me back to a song from years ago. But putting up big parking lots isn't always the best use of property. So both of those questions I'd appreciate your comments on.
So I can handle the parking field footprint. What you see on the screen, you know, there are certain parking requirements based on the square footage of the office space. When we were before the Planning Commission 2 meetings ago, we did have that discussion. And one of the things that was discussed was land banking some of your parking. You can see 4 different areas where we've banked over 100 parking spaces, both, does cursor work? No, it doesn't work. I mean, it's basically, it's the northwest, the northeast side. You see those white areas, those big fields. Those are all going to remain green and sodded out. And then both on the south side as well. When we had discussions with your planning department, they stated that those would be the most preferable areas that they would like to see put into land bank. Maintain the perimeter road, the drive around the parking field, and then try and eliminate the spaces, any spaces that back up directly into that perimeter drive. So, no, I don't, not on the screen. So, well, there you go. Yep. So, perfect. So you can see in this image here, while we show the striping in those areas, that's simply for illustrative purposes. Those 4 areas are going to remain as green space. And one of the things that we also looked at was the ability to try and minimize them. I mean, I know it is large, but it can get larger, and we didn't want to do that. We've been able to preserve triple-digit trees around the perimeter of this, majority of them along the 12-mile corridor, to try and enhance the natural feature buffer that's going to be preserved along the north and the south sides of this.
Okay, and what about the mixed-use concept?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So we do have the retail portion to the east, to the west, as you referenced before, which we are planning to connect that via walking paths, excuse me, so that people can use that element of the development. But these are traditional office buildings, and it's in an office corporate park where it's, you know, among the other office buildings. But we are excited that we recently did get the retail approved just to the west there, so we can connect those to all the office buildings there.
And I guess one more question, as long as I'm asking them, and I am overly focused on the parking lot. And the green, the LEED certification, there are permeable parking surfaces. Would that be something that you're considering putting in here? Because that decreases the overall runoff concept.
The permeable parking will not, I mean, we've had discussions with Oakland County about this as well. You don't get credits for permeable parking because of maintenance. They clog up over time. When you plow them, they tear up when they're during snow maintenance. So I understand the ability for it, but there's no credits afforded to us by placing any of that in.
Big credit here.
Just to add, with the Michigan winters as well, as the water goes through and freezes and thaws within the pavement itself, it breaks it down much faster than a warmer climate. So it's really not a great option here. It requires a lot of maintenance and upkeep over years. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. I let my other colleagues ask some questions.
Okay, anyone else?
I'm waiting on your comments.
Yeah. Oh, you're waiting on my, Mary Ellen?
Some questions. I understand there is going to be some kind of barrier between 12 Mile that's being preserved. What's the width on that again?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
The green space is being preserved from the street. What is the width on that? You said existing.
I would say it's, and I don't know off the exact top of my head, I would say it's about 60 feet.
Okay. And then, of course, I'm still with, to add on to the comments from Councilman Massey, we're talking 900, almost 1,000 parking spaces. And we don't have any defined lighting for this parking lot right now. And I'm concerned that it's going to be sitting there glowing over, because that's a lot of spaces to be
So
lighted.
we do have a defined, there is a lighting plan, a photometric plan that was prepared and submitted. There are a couple areas where the photo candles were higher than what's desired or what's allowed by your design standards. So there's just some minor adjustments that we need to make to a couple of the pole locations in order to satisfy that requirement.
Actually, we've already done that. It's been resubmitted for administrative review, and there are no pole relocations. We're actually just changing the sources. The fixture
there you go.
itself remains the same, the pole remains the same. The source type was just modified, and it was resubmitted probably before it got into circulation.
And the number of parking spaces, is that based upon the potential for
It's
how many
based
that's
on,
moving in?
yes, it's based on the ultimate square footage of the buildings.
I'm done.
May I say one thing? My name is Tony Anton, Executive Vice President of the Conjoining Companies. Just to kind of reframe this discussion a little bit, we're only before you because of the height. This plan would be fine just going to planning only, but for the height issue and the grade of that we're over 860. All of the other requirements are really dictated by code. So the parking is dictated by code. We are not building these buildings speculatively. I want to be very, very clear about that. We are talking to a user who would be an incredible new addition to Farmington Hills. And what we're talking about here is 4 feet on the height that will never be seen from 12 Mile or frankly from the freeway. It's like the size of the Diaz here, what we're talking about. You won't be able to tell the difference from that far out. So really everything else from land banking and parking to the parking field itself, those sorts of things are all dictated by code. We're just here because this is in 30 years, 29 years, we've only come with, now this is our second amendment to the PUD. And the other buildings in the park have this sort of height. They just sit at a different grade than this particular piece of property. On this property, everything sort of rolls from the north to the south. So as it was mentioned, with the topography, all this water runs naturally into this regional detention pond. And so what we're really here to focus on is the 4 feet acceptable? Because if it is, then we stand a really good chance of landing a great corporate citizen for the city of Farmington Hills. And we are not going to build it unless we land a user for it. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else write the second? Then I'll go. How blunt do you want me to be?
You're always blunt, Madam Mayor.
Yes, I am. It's not just the 4 feet, or the 4 feet, 6 inches, or whatever it happens to be. So it's an extra floor, and it doesn't really matter. That's not the problem. The problem is, it's been a full generation, 30 years, since traditional office buildings went in, and a new generation, not only of millennials, but now of Gen Zers, are entering the economic market. And so we've had major shifts in how people work, where they work, and what cities need to be sustainable in the future. And the last thing I want to see are 2 beautiful buildings surrounded by asphalt, sitting empty, like Green Path next to it. I don't want any more of those. On the other hand, we are at a point where we are redoing the master plan, and there may be some opportunities that you're not looking at right now because you're focused on the minor change to the PUD, and I've got to think 20 years from now, what is our city going to look like? What are we going to need to attract young families? What are people going to be doing in 20 years? How does their work life and home life balance efficiently and successfully? And what other kinds of amenities can we create in this campus-like environment of the city of Farmington Hills to attract people? And so I don't want to see 926 parking spaces. I don't want to, I have no problem with the height. I have no problem with the number of floors. I have a problem with the concept of continuing to do the same old thing that we're doing when the entire environment around us has made complete shifts. Maybe this area that you're sitting on, the property, is much more valuable as a low industrial research and development use, as well as an office complex. Because the new people that are coming in that are going to be building things and testing things may want to have people working in their office space that are also creative and doing some engineering that doesn't require a factory, but requires some research and development space that we might want to accommodate by updating our master plan to allow for you to seek different kind of tenants that might be more interested in this kind of development that we create. I suggest you also go back and look at something that I'm marveling at the fact that nobody has really started to do this more and more often, but the town center in Southfield. Remember the atrium area that they put in? It's gorgeous. There's none of that here. Maybe we want to have kind of like a mixed use kind of corridor that's starting here with the residential neighborhoods across the street and everything else, and letting our imagination run a little wild for a moment by creating maybe a palazzo kind of feel for these two buildings with 8 or 10 restaurants that occupy the first floor, maybe within a second layer of zoning that accommodates loft housing and then 2 stories of office space above. I don't know, but I think those are much more interesting. This is along a bus line. 12 Mile Road, we do happen to have smart buses. We need to improve that. I'm hoping that we'll eventually get around to that. But what you're sitting on right now may be much more attractive in a few short months than what you're trying to do now. Because what you're trying to do now, we've done for 60 years. And those kinds of buildings are now coming down. And they're causing blight in inner cities, and they are being reconfigured for different kinds of uses. So before we have to reconfigure it, I don't know, I mean, you're looking at the zoning as we have now, and I understand that. And right now, I'm kind of channeling Matt Strickfaden. So Matt, if you're watching, there's much more opportunity for neighborhood engagement in new kinds of building models and green spaces and picnic areas and EV chargers and maybe solar displays and other kind of interesting lighting that we can create, and some walking paths between buildings that encourage people to get outside more and enjoy the outside spaces. Maybe some areas where there are fire pits later in the day so that people could actually get served if we create a social district where people can get a drink from any one of these restaurants, sitting around a fire pit outside with their colleagues and other people joining them from outside of this complex to have a drink after work and make this much more of a third space. You know as well as I do that the new model for housing and everything else is people want experiences first. They want smaller living quarters with great amenities. I'm not saying, you know, they don't want that, but they're all looking for third spaces, social areas where people can gather, communicate, socialize, and relax. And I don't see this being an invitation to do that. And I don't know how fast you need to move, but I am not inclined at this point to support this particular project. Not because of the 4 feet.
Okay, before you make that, let me just pipe in real quick. I appreciate.
You've always said I've been blunt.
Yeah,
So
Madam Mayor, everything you said is true. Now, let me tell you what we're dealing with, real time. We are dealing with headquarter users who are trying desperately to bring their people back into the offices. And what they want is, they want a fresh start. They want to highly amenitize their own building. We are not talking about the mom and pops, the 5,000 and 10,000 square foot users. We are talking about national and international headquarter users who want to consolidate in one building, who want to highly amenitize their people and bring them back into the work environment so they can get their collaboration back. This is what we're talking about. These buildings will be 1 or 2 users max. This is not going to be something that we're talking about that is going to be a multi-tenant office type of structure. But the atrium you mentioned, fitness centers, cafeterias, golf simulators, all these sorts of things are being talked about for this project. And I would tell you, you're right in general about what you just said, but we are talking to people real time about coming to Farmington Hills and coming into these buildings. So just be careful here. If we say no to this, we are saying no to a large user potentially coming to the city of Farmington Hills. They're not here now. They're outside of the city. And look at, and let's say, how long does a site plan approval last? 12 months? I think, Charmaine, right? Oh, 3 years, sorry. I have my cities confused. But my point is, we're not building it spec, and I'll go on the record saying and sign on something that says we're not going to build it spec. We'd be crazy to build it spec. If we don't land a headquarter user for it, we may absolutely go in that direction. But right now, we have live prospects for this project. And I just think it's well worth our time collectively to explore that.
I agree with you. So let's say you have one user that you're looking at. You've got 2 huge buildings here.
Yeah.
So what if one was accommodating the kind of user you're looking at, and the other was accommodating the kind of users?
Then we'll come back and amend. Because the user that we're talking to wants at least one building and the ability to take both. We're talking about a large user.
Okay, I'm just one vote up here.
I know, I'm just trying to say.
Got others? Yes, Ms. Knoll.
Can I just make some comments?
Yes, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
So while I also agree with much of what you said, but I think we need to be careful up here trying to tell the industry what to do. I think the industry in this case does know best, because on the spectrum, we have over here employers that basically want their employees back in the office 5 days a week. Some employees are going back to the former model, the pre-COVID model. That's very true. You have other employers way over on the other side of the spectrum that are like, you know what? I really don't care if you ever come in. You can work from home pretty much 5 days a week, maybe come in 1 or 2 days a week. But when you do come in, it needs to be for a purpose. You don't just come in and work at a desk and not socialize with anyone. When you come in, it's because you have a team meeting. You're collaborating. You are purposeful in why you're there. Those type of corporations, their employees may only come in once or twice a week, if even that, because it has to be purposeful. And they have the type of jobs that they can work at home. That's one extreme. Then you have the majority of the businesses. And I'm not making this up. I have been discussing this with real estate brokers out there that are kind of in the middle. And they're mostly going to a hybrid model, a flexible model. Either you work from the office 3 days a week, you work from home 2 days a week, or you maybe are in the office maybe 4 days a week, but your hours are flexible. So if you need to leave early or come in late, that's okay. It's flex hours, but you are expected to be in the office. So there's really a range, is the point of where I'm going with this. And so I just think we have to be careful that we don't try to tell the corporations that know their employees, that that have a way they need to run their business, because that's what's best for their employees and their business. We don't want to tell them what to do. We want them to be able to come into Farmington Hills and have a variety of options so that we can accommodate the businesses over here and the businesses over here. So while we have more traditional office buildings in Farmington Hills, and I do think we need to rethink a lot of it for, future plans, the reason why I do support this is because in this case, he already has a company, a corporation for these buildings. And it sounds like this corporation may be way more over here. They want their employees in. And maybe they're gonna have a flexible schedule where they can come and go as their hour, make their own hours, but they expect them there maybe, 4 or 5 days a week. It sounds like that company that you've got on the hook for these 1 or 2 buildings is of that model. And that's okay if that's what works for them. I'd like to accommodate them. I know a lot of corporations are downsizing. They are realizing with a flexible schedule and hybrids, they can use a little less office space. And so they're going from maybe 3 buildings all throughout Southeast Michigan into 1 building. And I would love to have that corporation, whoever it may be, right here in Farmington Hills. And if you've already got them on the hook, I'm good with this. I would say if you didn't have anyone on the hook for this, I would be a little more questioning this and this type of office building. And I'd say we maybe do have to look at maybe a different footprint or layout. But from what you're saying, I can support it.
I got 3 hotels on 12 Mile Road I can sell you.
That are what?
I have 3 hotels on 12 Mile Road that I can sell you. Okay? On the old Alexander Hamilton property. Did we trust developers then to build what they knew we needed? Yes. Did it work out well? So I'm kind of in between, and I don't want to be stuck with.
Well, I would say this. I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. And as someone who's been in this business for a long time, we've had some winners and we've had some losers, but I think overall our company has built a pretty
Excellent company.
Great
Excellent
product
company.
for the Farmington Hills corporate campus. I would say this, that our zoning almost allows exactly what we're going for. I mean, if we wanted a little less square footage and 3 stories instead of 4, we could still do this. We could still try to make it work. This is putting our best foot forward with this prospect, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put our best foot forward. If it doesn't work out, I may be knocking on your door saying, let's talk about this other idea, because I'm open, I'm creative. We want to do what's right for the land and for the city and everything else. But right now, we have an opportunity that we really need to explore, because in this market, in this office market, I hear what you're saying, that you haven't been back, but let me tell you something. Our occupancy in our portfolio, which is 30 buildings in Michigan alone, is going like this. Occupancy is coming back. Now, it's different. A lot of it is 3 days a week, hoteling, different, every sector is different. The tech industry and the insurance industry, tons of people from home, right? But attorneys and accountants and, so many other suppliers and whatnot are in person. They're trying to bring their people back. And what they're doing is some people are going from, 150,000 down to 80,000. Some people are going from 20 to 12. Some people are growing. UHY in Farmington Hills in our Orchards Corporate Center, they have grown 3 times since COVID started. 3 times we've grown them in the orchards, in our building. It's case by case. And we have an opportunity that we're talking to right now about somebody bringing in a massive headquarters. And I just think it would be crazy not to explore that and to take that to fruition. And if it doesn't work, we'll be back and we'll explore what you're talking about.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Nope.
I do. So looking at what almost 1,000 parking spaces means there's 1,000 people that might be wanting to or be close to moving into our city. So that means that we have to even consider what we need to provide or have available in the city for a corporation who's moving in for their workers. Be it more different housing, be it more restaurants, be it more events. So I'm hoping along with this potential corporation that we're going to be putting more families in the city too.
Yeah, I would assume so. It always happens for us. Every time we land a new office, I mean, at least we hear, this is all anecdotal because we don't track where the people live, but Farmington Hills has a tremendous allure. I grew up in Farmington Hills, 30991 Ridgeway Drive. That's where I grew up. And I love this city. And we hear all the time that people love being here. They love to work here. They love to reside here. What's not to love about Farmington Hills? So I think that they are going to do that, especially with a user of this size.
Okay. Ms. Boulware?
Yes. Yeah, I haven't said anything so far. I guess I've listened to what all my council members had to say, and that was some great information. But I think my concern is really with the building height increase. It seems as though incrementally since I've been on council, we've been increasing the height of the buildings over the last 2 or 3 years. And as I think was mentioned earlier today, we did change that so that the building height could be higher to accommodate some of the internet or wiring that's required for some of the internet and other technical aspects of some of the corporate buildings. But now we're going from, to the 4-story, and I do have a concern because Farmington Hills in general have 2-story buildings. You don't see the high rises except where we allowed the hotels that are now vacant, those 2 large buildings on the old Hamilton property. So that would be my major concern, is really the height of the building. To see if we can, perhaps bring that height down somewhat, if possible. And I think that would perhaps eliminate or reduce the number of parking spots that's required. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a possibility. And if there is, I guess the second part of my statement is, if that is a corporate client, speculatively, that's looking for a building or 2, they may buy both buildings. Is there a reason why the 2 buildings are not combined into one?
So let me start with the first question first. It's important to note that we already have 4-story buildings in our PUD, in our corporate campus. There are 4 buildings
Yeah,
that.
I think the elevation is,
And that's the issue,
yeah.
right? So
you don't have these tall,
we are allowed 55 feet, which is what these are, but it's not at 860 elevation, and that's what the issue is. So the 4 stories already there, and frankly, in this area, since it's so far from the residences, it really is impossible for the naked eye to see that 4 or 5 foot difference, as I mentioned. To your second point, as it relates to why are we separating the buildings? Well, one, because so far, this user only wants one of them. We know that they would take one whole building if we can deliver this. And the second thing is they want to be able to have the ability to take a second building of the same size, a sister building, if you will. I don't know all the details about what they'll put in each building. We're not there yet with them. We're at a point where they want to say, can you deliver this, so that we can take the next step with them and start to really hone in on those details.
Okay. Anyone else? Would you like to make a motion?
I would. I had a lot of great discussion, and I just think, Mayor, you made some terrific comments about our vision for our community, and we all support that. And I think that this project, if you're going to deliver 1 or 2 tenants for these two office complexes, can have an enormous spillover effect on that 12-mile road area there, and also help with some existing properties that are on that 12-mile road areas as well. So I'm going to support the project. I think that it's a net positive for the community. And given the fact that we're going to have additional retail opportunities on that area on 12-mile road as well. And so I'm going to support the project. So I'm going to make a motion to support it. That motion says that I move council to approve an amendment to the PUD Plan 5, 1993, including SP 5A-4, 2022, dated August 4th, 2022. The following motion is offered. Resolved that the application for approval of an amendment to the PUD Plan 5, 1993, include SP 5A-4, 2022 is granted, subject to the following conditions. Number one, any condition and requirement stated in the Giffords Webster review shall be complied with or addressed to the satisfaction of the Planning Community Development Department. Number two, City Council approved an amendment to the PUD agreement to permit 55 feet of building height and 4 stories. I don't know if we need to add additional conditions to this approval or not, but right now I'm basically moving what we currently have. And further resolve that the city attorney prepare the appropriate PUD agreement stipulating the final PUD approval conditions and authorizing the identified zoning deviation for city council consideration and final approval.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by Ms. Knoll. Any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a regular vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say aye. Aye. So it was
approved.
5 to 1?
4 to 1. 4 to 1.
4 to,
Or, I'm sorry, 5 to 1. Valerie
5 to 1.
is here now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it passes 5 to 1.
Thank you all very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make me happy.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is another public hearing, a public hearing and consideration of revised plan unit development 2, 2021, including site plan 59-5, 2022, located at 27400 12 Mile Road. Mr. Patel, how are you? How are you? I am fine. I'm excited. Thank you.
Good evening. I think this might be the answer to some of the questions about where the housing might come from on the previous plan. We've got some items here. So this is a consideration to redevelop a 31.5 acre parcel for a skilled nursing facility and residential development, consisting of townhomes and single-family detached condominiums. Proponent is Optimus Healthcare, and the owner is Evangelical Homes of Michigan. The details of the plan will be addressed by the proponent and our planning consultant from Giffords Webster. And I do want to note that this plan has been reviewed through the Historic District Commission, as a portion of it is under the Historic District Commission's purview. They approved a notice to proceed back in December 8th of 2021, and the Planning Commission had their public hearing on July 21st and unanimously recommended the plan for approval to City Council. This evening is the public hearing for that item. Myself and staff are here to answer questions either before or after a public hearing. So we're gonna turn it over to the folks from Optimus and let them speak to their items. I don't know if you guys have slides?
We send in the presentation. Send it to Eric? Oh, is it on
It
here?
is?
Okay.
All right.
I think-
Well,
I
let's
think
do
you're
a
looking
quick,
at it.
let's do a quick switch then.
It's the, let's make sure we have the right version. We've had a few of them.
Okay. Oh, it was,
I hope it's the one I looked at. I really like that one.
All right. Sounds good. Go home now.
we didn't include everything that you had as part of.
Well, the first one was the main one.
Okay.
So that's like,
Bless you, whoever sneezed.
Take a $5 bill and a couple receipts.
Nope,
Nope.
that's not it. Hold on.
This isn't the first one. There should be a slide deck. It's on the desktop, are you saying? Yes. All right, sorry, we're gonna get this together, I promise.
It cracks right here consistently.
That away?
They've cracked too.
While, I've got an idea. While you are fixing that, we're gonna take a 5-minute nature break.
Okay.
All right.
Break time. Yes. Welcome back after our short break. We are in the middle of beginning our discussion for a public hearing on item number 7 on the agenda, which is the planned unit development to 2021 on 12 Mile Road.
Good evening, I'm Raj Patel with Optalis Healthcare. Nice to be with you, council members and Madam Mayor. It's been a long journey, but we're excited to be back. And during this long journey, it's been a plan that has evolved with input from the council and from our neighbors, and really in collaboration with the Historic District Committee. So this is, in our view, a great site for our 2 projects that we're going to present again tonight, but we look forward to, with your support, writing the next chapter in the history of Sarah Fisher on this great historic site. So what I've got here is a short set of slides, just go through, just remind everybody, or refresh, and for the public's benefit, what we hope to accomplish on this site. With me, I have Tim Lochran of Robertson Brothers, who is our co-developer and our partner in development, if you will, on the residential side, the north part of the parcel. And I guess we'll go through the first slide I have, which I can pull that up if I know how to use your laptop. Oh, okay, all right. So we were here last summer, a couple of times in front of council, and are we good?
It's not getting up onto the screen.
Oh, sorry.
This happens at the ZBA meetings too.
Yeah, she's trying.
There's some kind of snafu.
It's odd. It's not refreshing. Maybe this.
Down there.
This couldn't verify subscription.
Do they have this?
That might be the problem.
We have the site plans and.
Do you have this, the slide deck that looks like this, the first page?
No.
I'll try to hit that retry.
But I think we have enough to go on.
Oh, we'll have to put it up there so everybody can see. Give it another minute or two. If it doesn't work, then I'll just do it verbally.
Oh, there it is, okay. Yeah, this we have.
See, that's the old one. Yeah, that's not theirs.
That's the existing site plan. That's the
Right.
existing site.
That we have.
Regarding this company, do you have your
You have it in thumb drive, right?
More candy?
You just loaded this. Okay, all right.
Is that it?
Do it? Wait, let's see. Oh, there we got it. We got
Okay,
it.
so what do I have to do to go to the next one?
Just the down arrow.
Just the down arrow? Okay. You don't have this, do you? What we're looking at?
I think we do.
Oh.
No, but go, this is
Okay,
good.
so this stuff up here is the information that I'm going to go through.
Okay,
We can Go
perfect.
back to the side plan as well, was submitted. But this is what we just turned in with some bullet points, and just, as you can see on this slide that I have up on the screen, we're talking, just want to put and highlight the major revisions since we were in front of you last time. And these revisions were driven with comments that we got back from council, direction, just got a better feel for the core concerns. When we presented the project last time, it was a balance between getting some of those, if you will, threading the needle on everybody's wishes and still having an economically viable project, which led to these major revisions. And these major revisions are, we have 3. Of course, there's refinements on the plan all over the plan, but the 3 major revisions are a drastic reduction in density. That was too much density, was an overarching sort of feedback, so we went back and reduced the density a lot, okay? And what we did is we accomplished that 2 ways. One is just an absolute reduction in the number of units. We went from a plan that showed 156 residential units down to 94. So that's about 64 units less, fewer units, 40% reduction, big reduction. Some of them got replaced with 30 single-family condos or sort of one-story condos, and we brought it down to 94 units, which further density-wise got improved because with our working with the Historic District Committee, we were able to get more usable land in terms of them permitting more demolition. So on a units per acre, we went from 17 units per acre to 6.7 units per acre. So we got less units, more acreage. So we went from 17 units per acre to 6, which is a 61% reduction. So that was pretty much as low as we could go and still have something to do with sort of just the infrastructure costs and so forth that are involved in this project. We've covered that many times. The second main, not revision, but we were confirming was the units had, preference was the units are for sale. They're not rental units. So we're confirming today that all of the residential units are actually going to be for sale. They're not rental units. They're not going to be rented out. They will be for sale. And Robertson's here today. They can talk about details on that as any questions we can answer. And then the third one, more coming again from council, and some of it was the extensive public comments that we had, was really from the neighborhood behind us, Hickory Grove, and was mostly around sort of high-end single-family homes, then abutting like a big drop, if you will, demographically to just straight townhomes. So we've, thanks to the creativity of Robertson and everybody else that worked on this project, have a good step down from single-family homes to these condo units that are single-story, beautiful-looking condos that are one step down, and then there's townhomes all the way up on Inkster. So you've got a good sort of a blend down of compatible, complementary type of development going, which met with the neighbors next door. They were very supportive at Planning Commission. I don't think anybody's showed up today, but we've got a lot of positive feedback from them. They're very pleased. So these are the three main revisions that you'll see in this plan as I go through the slides. I will just go through the slides, and I'm hoping you can all see them, and if you have questions, we can talk about them. We'll happy to answer questions as they come up. But switching to the next slide here. So this is now the combined site plan, the new site plan as proposed. We have the skilled nursing facility now on the south side of the project as it was always contemplated, but nice kind of contours to the site, development on the residential, and how you have the two product types there. They're separated with green space and just the way everything kind of flows. Part of working with the the Historic District Committee, we had a lot of conversations with them, including some site visits, and they formed a work committee and so forth. And I think we came to we feel like a good, happy compromise in what is the chapel that stands there today is to them was the most coveted piece that looks like this. It's going to get restored to the ability that we can, is going to be restored and incorporated into the future development. So that's going to look, so if you look at this picture, as you can see, it's not really, it looks nice, but you can't do anything with it because it's not a public access type of front entry. It's not ADA compliant or anything. So what we are doing now is on the back side, when the back of the administrative building gets demoed off, and then we're going to build in this glass enclosure, keep it as similar roof line wise and everything else to kind of match the front, but exactly so you can always tell what's the original and what's not, and really make it conducive to a nicer, safer public entrance, like a memorial tribute to the site. But this was pretty well received by them, if you will, and obviously they approved the notice to proceed, so they were pretty pleased with what we are proposing as the future use of the chapel should be. That's just another slide that shows where the chapel will kind of stand. The rest of it will get demolished and kind of incorporates into where it fits into the overall development. These are some elevations of the skilled nursing facility. This is going to be, state-of-the-art building. I've said this since the very beginning. We own and operate many buildings, and we know what the market wants. We know what is going to work in this community, and this is kind of the state-of-the-art facility design, 100-bed skilled nursing facility with 4 units, and these are the elevations. Floor plans, and I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tim to go through the rest of it. Tim, if I may ask you to, because we're getting into the residential slides.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tim Loughran, Robertson Brothers Home, 6905 Telegraph Road. It was about a year ago where I stood here and heard a lot of concern with what we were showing. So we got it loud and clear. We did take a look at it. We were always very consistent in we have always felt that there would be demand for what we call the detached condominiums, first floor ranch condominiums, about 1,850 square foot. We're building these in Northville. We're building them in Rochester Hills. We actually just sold out there. And now we're starting in Troy with a lot of success. And we know that this will be successful here. It's really just finding a site that is conducive to it. When we took a look at it again after hearing from all of you, we really realized that there is an opportunity to do an enclave type of development in conjunction with what we had proposed to a smaller degree along Inkster. And we think it really fits in well, and it really has that transition from a higher intensity roadway as you get closer to the residential to the west of us. So we're very excited about it. I've got some slides to show you on that, but we see this as a village. We see this as a concept that really kind of fits together in and of itself, along with Raj's piece. This is what you had seen before on the top, about 156 townhomes, which we heard you loud and clear that just didn't fit here. We did take a look at it again. You can see majority of the land, and this is a little bit of an older site plan here, but it's about the same. You can see the majority of the land is now devoted to the detached condominiums, which are buffering. To the bottom is actually west, which we have the neighborhood to the west, which would be a buffer to that. And there's a lot of topography here, and it really works with the land. We'll have walkouts for those units that are backing to the west. Just quickly on the product design, these are actually shots of both of the types of products that we're planning to build. High-end finishes, we encourage you to walk our product. We have probably the nearest townhome development is in Brighton, downtown Brighton, and for our detached condominiums, like I mentioned, Northville or Rochester Hills. I think we might still have a model there. We do, because we're selling our Troy neighborhood out of there. So this is what it looks like. Again, first floor ranches, 2-bedroom with a den. Very popular plan. We've got a lot of success with this. We know it'll go very well here in your community. High-end finishes, high-end materials, hardy, stone, brick. Really, this is something that I would encourage you to go see our existing product, because we're very proud of what this is and how it'll fit here in Farmington Hills. This is the townhomes. As we had mentioned before, this would be solely along Inkster Road. And there would be 1-car versions and 2-car versions as well. And we are parked overall more than 2 spaces per unit, which I know is important. Just quickly on the floor plans, this is the single car, about 1,200 to 1,300 square foot. And then this is the 2-car, a little bit bigger. This is more for families. That's what we typically see, young families buying this product. So really kind of a mix to bring in. I think, the previous case, I think, is really important. There are a lot of jobs here. There's a lot of people looking for, we call it attainable housing. It is attainable housing. It's not affordable housing by any stretch. Nothing's affordable really today. But, we believe that this is a product that would go very well in your city. So, again, I think the mix of all the products together, and And I think the best slide is here. I think just having the holistic approach to this community. You know, we listened to you, and you're right. This is something that I think is a much better improvement than what we previously showed you. So I'm happy to any questions on residential. Obviously, Raj can answer any of the questions on the skilled nursing facility.
Anybody have any questions now, or would you like to hear from our consultants?
I'll hear from the consultant.
Okay. We can move on to Mr. Arroyo. Thank you.
Good evening again. Rod Arroyo with Giffords Webster. I'll be going over our August 4th review. So unlike the previous item before you that was seeking to amend a PUD, this is a brand new PUD. Okay, so they're here for the final PUD approval process, which they've already been to Planning Commission. They've got a recommendation. So now they're before you. So in the event that you choose to approve this project this evening, this project will be back before you again because they have to do a PUD agreement. As you'll recall, if you've been through this process, this is a multi-phase approach. So there will be a PUD agreement that will come before you. All of that will be presented, and that will also be subject to your approval. One of the things I point out on page 3, as we do with all PUDs, is the qualification. There's specific criteria here. One of the things under E is the plan unit development has to meet at a minimum one of the following objectives of the city. The applicant has indicated that they believe they meet 7 out of the 8, and the Planning Commission agreed with them in terms of qualification. So I won't go into a lot of detail on that, but that is certainly an important part of your consideration is does it meet the qualification for the PUD approval process. In terms of the actual project itself, I think the applicants described that fairly well and gone over the reduction in the number of units. Basically, as you look at this plan, there's roughly 14 acres that's the mixed residential with the different residential types, and then there's roughly 14 acres that has the skilled nursing. And then the remainder of that is the natural preservation area. So kind of gives you the balance between the area of the project and the various uses. So this is a mixed use project. We call this horizontal mixed use, not vertical mixed use. The denser residential is closer to Inkster Road. They've now provided the detached single family closer to the existing subdivision to the west. We also identify a couple of other key points here. One is the historic designation. That's a very important component of what one of the benefits of the project is the preservation of some of the historic character. And then we also identify the master plan. Your master plan actually envisioned that there would need to be a PUD on this project. So it calls that out. It also calls out some specific elements, including trying to maintain the historic character of the site, controlling access, and working with the developer to achieve suitable plans that meet the goals. So, you know, these are some of the key elements. I won't go into every single one of them in detail. Looking at some of the other standards, the applicants provided you the density of the project. I mean, obviously this does exceed what the zoning currently provides for, but what the applicant is asking for you is to consider the PUD qualification and some of the preservation of certain site features that might not otherwise be preserved with conventional development, as well as some of the other features that the project is including. Looking at some of the other site-related items, they are asking for some relief in terms of the PUD approval from some of your standards. Front setback is one of them. The front setback requirement is 50 feet in this district. They're asking for 30 feet. So that's for those buildings that are fronting on Inkster Road. They are also asking for building height relief for the attached portion. So the residential component that's farthest to the east along Inkster Road, they're asking, rather than what the ordinance calls for, which is a maximum of 30 feet, they're asking for 34.15 feet. So there's just over a 4 feet additional height. And the design of these units is such that there's a garage under them, and then there's 2 floors of living above. That's all in the information that you've been provided. In terms of parking, there's also a couple other issues associated with that. Front setback, it's the same thing, looking for relief rather than the 50 feet. The 30 feet is being sought. And then also, in terms of dimensions of parking, this is one that I want to talk about in a minute. The apron for the attached units is only 18 feet long. Your standard for a parking stall would be 20 feet. And we believe that 20 feet makes sense. And I think that if you approve this project through the site plan approval process or site plan process, they can make adjustments to provide for the 20 feet. We know that there are a number of trucks that exceed 18 feet in length. We see a lot of pickup trucks in residential areas, and there's several of them that are in excess of 18 feet. So we think the 20-foot standard for a stall length makes sense in the city, and we'd like to see that incorporated into this plan. In terms of other issues, there are a couple of, just like the previous plan, there's some lighting issues that need to be addressed. That can be done administratively. Everything would have to meet the ordinance. There's no waivers that are associated with that. So they're going to have to provide for that. They do have some decorative fixtures that they're proposing. Those are going to be low-level decorative fixtures. They're providing additional information on that as well. But we're anticipating that, as far as I know, the applicant is going to conform with your existing ordinance requirements in regards to lighting. So just to summarize, the relief that's sought from the ordinance standards as part of this PUD includes allowing the use, so the attached single family and the detached single family at the density that's being proposed. That's something that requires PUD approval. The reduced front setback along Inkster Road from 50 feet to 30 feet. The additional height for the single family attached units from 30 feet to 34.15. And then the question of the parking stall length, they've proposed that 18 feet. As we've mentioned, Ford F-150, 20 feet 9 inches, Dodge Ram, 21.7 inches. These are some of these vehicles can be very long, and we think the 20-foot standard makes sense that the city has. So that's a summary of comments. Happy to answer questions.
Bridges?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Arroyo. Appreciate that. And the question is probably for the proponent in regards to the residential properties. Do you know what the market price of those properties would be per unit? What do you think the market would bear there?
It changes every month lately. So generally, I can tell you what similar type of communities, which obviously every community is different. Right now, the townhomes that we're selling a similar type in Brighton, those are in the high 200s to low 300s starting, and then people option them up to about 350 plus. Okay. Now the detached condominiums, those are probably going to start in the low 500s. Okay. And then people option them up, and I've seen people option them up almost 900,000. It's pretty amazing what they can do to those. So definitely higher end product.
Okay. Also, I wanted to compliment the proponent for substantial changes in your plan, and it took months to get this done, get it right. And I appreciate the proponent responding to the council's wishes or concerns in previous city council discussions, particularly the condominiums, detached condominium that you added there, and I appreciate that. Let's see here. Basically, that was it. Mr. Royal, you said it met 8 of the 9 qualifications. Which one it did not meet?
Well, 7 of the 8.
7 or 8.
Yeah, and I can tell you real quick. The one that didn't appear applicable was to guarantee the provision of a public improvement which would not otherwise be required, that would further protect the public health, safety, and welfare, protect existing or future uses from the impact of a proposed use, or alleviate an existing or potential problem related to public facilities. That was the one that was not identified.
And do you recall what was the status of that requirement being met on the previous proposals? Do you have any response on that?
The previous, no, because that was 1993 and I wasn't here.
I'm talking about the previous plan that they had before council. Did they meet, were they at 7 or 8 then, or were they lower?
Oh,
than that?
I see what you're saying. Yes, I don't think that number has changed because it addressed, the planning commission didn't, they've agreed to this particular proposal that's before you tonight, but I believe many of these conditions were still applicable because this project all along has been permanently preserving open space or natural features with exceptional characteristics. It's been dedicating or setting aside open space in perpetuity. It's allowed for transition of uses. It's promoted master plan goals and objectives, foster the aesthetic appearance of the city, bring about redevelopment sites where orderly change of use is determined to be desirable. A lot of these are just really, because of this project so unique, they really make sense for this project.
I got you. Yeah, this is clearly a substantial improvement, and it does clearly responds to the council's concerns we had in previous discussions. So I'm looking on this project in a much more favorable light, no question about that.
Any other questions or comments before I open the public hearing?
Well, I'll just, if I could make a couple
Sure.
of comments. And first of all, gentlemen, persistence. I'm honestly, you know, that adage, if first you don't succeed, keep trying unless you're parachuting. I really was, when I looked at this, I was very impressed about the reduction in density, and it was evident from the plans as I was reading through our packet that you had taken into account a lot of the concerns that both myself and my colleagues, I was one that had the no rental units. That was a big concern of mine. And I also appreciate the fact that you worked with our historic district group. And I think by doing that, finally get to a plan that looks a little, you know, it looks excellent compared to what we started with. There were some concerns that were expressed by the fire department, and I know this isn't the final site plan, but have you read through those, and are you ready to, can you deal with all of those comments, specifically around the traffic obstructions, the gate that has to meet the 2015 IFC requirements, the no bollards, breakaway bollards, and things like that. They want to be able to get in and do their jobs. So have you thought about how to deal with that?
Yes, so we had a meeting early July, thanks to Joe Valentine set up a meeting for us with city engineering and fire to kind of have like a working session. We had our engineering design team present, and I think we've kind of talked through the design changes that addresses you know, their concerns and, you know, preserve some of the aesthetics and separation of spaces and uses that we were hoping to achieve. So I think we found a happy medium there. So, yes.
Okay. There are two items on there that, one, you can't really do until you've started to build, and that is determine whether or not the radio systems can be accessible. And we found that when we built, renovated the Hawk, we had to put in a new repeater system because it didn't meet current standards. So that one's one that just make sure you're aware of it. You can't really do anything about it until you find out if it works. And the other thing is Fire Marshal did make the suggestion to consider the residential sprinkler systems in the single-family dwellings, the detached ones.
Okay.
I don't know if you've given that consideration. It wasn't a requirement, it was just a suggestion because it's the direction for fire suppression and so forth that seemed to make some sense.
You want to speak to that?
Yeah, we'll certainly work with fire, obviously, on all these comments. The one that you had mentioned about the bollards, So what we're really trying to accomplish is having an enclave type of development. And, you know, the issue is you can see that long stretch as it goes toward the skilled nursing facility. Originally, we had a little bit of like a T turnaround that was not acceptable when we met with engineering and fire. So we came up with an idea for having bollards in that road that kind of goes around the skilled nursing facility. That is only meant for fire access, nothing else. And I understand their concern with the breakaway bollards. We'd like to look at maybe some gates or something like that, because our intent is for, you know, trash or moving trucks or whatever it would be. If they need to turn around, they'd go in here, they'd go into that road there behind the skilled nursing facility and then kind of make a U-turn back out. That was the reason for the bollard. So we'll work with them on that, but the concept is something that's very important to us to create an enclave, not have access straight out through that area.
Sure, and I guess my comment is just to make sure that you work with the fire marshal and make sure, and get those things. And they were in the plans that we reviewed that came in our packet, but if you can assure us that that's going to happen, and
fully agree.
I think that'll be a good idea. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Knoll?
Thank you very much for, yeah, your being diligent and persistent. This has been a very long process. So this site has been vacant for a very long time. There's been several owners that were going to do something with the site. They've always, all those projects have fallen through over many, many years. So it's nice to see something come to fruition. So I like the plan very much. I really only have one concern, and so I have a question about it, but I think the question is more for Rod, if he could come back up.
Okay.
And only because, and I asked this question just one so I clearly understand it, but also as someone who, the majority of people I know do drive large cars, Grand Cherokees and trucks and so forth. Most people I know are not getting smaller cars. So explain to me the recommendation from 18 to 20. So are you're referring to the single family,
Attached.
the detached, right?
Attached.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's just for the townhomes.
correct.
And
Any apron that approaches a driveway we're talking 20 feet for any of those.
Yeah, and at 18 feet, is there a possibility that if someone does not pull in all the way and they leave a couple feet clearance between their vehicle and the garage, that you're gonna have an overhang situation?
Yeah, well, yes, absolutely. And you'll have, with 18 feet, you'll have an overhang with larger trucks, some of the larger trucks.
Yeah, that's a bit of concern of mine. Trucks are so popular, trucks and large sport utilities. So is it, would it be possible to push the development, the townhouses back a couple feet? I guess I understand that that would create a little bit of a problem with Inkster because you already have a variance for the setback on Inkster.
Yes.
It would also encroach more into the detached single family, which on one side is not a problem because there's a huge amount of green space there. You could easily push those back a couple feet and I don't think anyone's gonna realize a couple feet of green space is gone. On the other side, to the left, the north, I'm not sure what the distance is there, but that's a little bit tighter there.
Yeah, it is, so you're hitting the nail on the head. It is tight. And, we've done the best that we can to try and give enough buffer to the west and still have a buffer from our homes, in between the product line, because I think that's important. A couple of things at play here. The area where you're mentioning has a large open area. It's kind of complicated because we have so much grade on this site. That is dropping significantly there. We're using that to drop a lot of grade. And on top of that, we probably have to put a rain garden in that section per county requirements. So what we're going to be doing is, and you can kind of see it where those trees are. There's like a dark shade kind of just below them. That would be a retaining wall so we could at least get those trees up. There's really not much room to squeeze from there. We're already kind of tight there. And then the area to the north of that, to your point, it is kind of tight already. So I do understand the concern. We would certainly rather have 20. I mean, to be honest, you know, it's going to be, we're going to have to disclose this to our sales. You know, this particular buyer wouldn't necessarily need a truck, but that everybody I know has trucks. So I do get that. I do get that. But, you know, that might not be the house for
People
them.
don't always buy trucks because they need a truck. They buy them because they like
I know. Just to point out, though,
very functioning.
this is just for guest parking for behind those units. So each of those units will have either a 1 or a 2-car garage. So these are actually, it's actually additional parking. That's how we kind of view this.
How deep are the garages? Because a
The
lot of
garages are 20 by 20. They're 20 by 20.
20?
Yes. So ideally to make it work, and I don't have my engineer here with me, ideally to make it work, it would make sense to push the 4 feet closer to Inkster. I know it's already a deviation, so we didn't necessarily propose that. I don't really have much room to go west, if you will, just because we are trying to create a buffer between the two, and I'm pinched a lot more than it might look. So I do hear it. You know, we looked at it. We've got 18-foot spaces at other developments. We don't typically do parking behind, but you know, this is something that we have done in other communities and not had issues. And I will say one thing. We'll have a HOA here, and typically these HOAs are pretty militant. And you know, if there's a car sticking out, I can guarantee you they're going to get ticketed, and there'll be an issue with the HOA. So there is. It's not like there's going to be work trucks. We don't allow work trucks. It's not like they're going to be hanging out, and there'll be issues with the HOA if that happens.
And also the road is the standard width. You don't have an extremely wide road, right? It's not like you can take from the road.
That's correct. I think we had proposed and I wish I did have John with me, but I think we did propose a narrower width, and engineering required us to have a more full width. So we probably have some room there. I'd have to take a look at the plans. I do have the plans with me. But again, those are engineering standards, and we're meeting the engineering standards. I think I don't know if it's 26 feet, but typically we can get by with 24 feet. I don't have glasses on me. I'd have to take a look at this a little bit harder. But again, I don't know if engineering would allow us to reduce the width of that driveway.
The road, yeah.
Yes, the road.
Well, it's not ideal, but I understand the predicament you're in. And like you said, they do have garages, which are 20 feet. So at least they will be able to park their truck in their garage.
Yes,
and there are actually, it looks like there is some additional parking at the end of the drive.
Yeah,
Yes. What are the length of those spaces?
Those would be the full 20. They probably are 18 with a 2-foot overhang, but yes, those are available for deeper cars for sure.
Yeah, especially if they have guests come over, if they have additional parking down there, and those are longer spaces, you could always park down there.
Yeah, I don't see owners parking in those spaces behind the units, since they'll have, spaces, and especially the 2-car units.
So it would be for guests.
It would be for guests, exactly.
For guests that drive trucks.
The HOA will not let, yes.
A lot of guests drive trucks.
The HOA would not
Gary
let
goes
them.
over and visits them.
Yeah, the HOA does not let owners park behind the units because, if they have junk in their garage, trust me, they're going to get ticketed on that. So we've put that into our master deeds, that language.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none right now, I'm going to open it up to public hearing. I will now officially open the public hearing. Please keep your comments short.
I will do my very best, Mayor.
You will do your very best. I know you will.
Usually before a petitioner gets to his portion of the agenda, I will, in a very friendly, kind, and nice manner, try to make their acquaintance and ask them something about the project. I'm not impressed, and it seems like the ink is already on the rubber stamp, but I'm just offering my opinion. So I approached the gentleman and asked what type of facility this is going to be. and they said rehabilitation. So I'm thinking more like a nursing home, and it's going to have, you know, staff, and it's just going to be this really great rehabilitation place. So he called over the doctor. I said, do you have a card? And, you know, he said, I'll give you a card and then I'll talk to you tomorrow. But I wanted to talk to you tonight because the vote is going to be tonight. So I don't want the card. I don't really have anything that I want to ask him, but I'm familiar with the area. And I know that when you're doing such a project, you have to notify people a certain number of feet within that particular property. So since I used to live in Southfield off of 12 Mile, and I have an almost 40-year history there prior to buying my home here, I know on the corner of 12 Mile and Inkster, on the south side west, you have San Marino Villa houses. You also have Pilot's Cove and another, I can't remember the name of it, another condominium complex there, and it's all in that area. So did you notify those people, since it's very close to your development, about this project, and were they notified to attend the public hearing? I would probably say no, because none of those people called me, because in Southfield for 40 years, I've had my finger on the pulse. And Mr. Gary Magian can speak to that. I'm very informed about those particular issues. Also, too, did you know that there's going to be a conference center built right there at Sherrydale between Northwestern Highway and Inkster, right near Sherrydale? Did you notify those few homeowners that have not sold their home out to that doctor and that developer? I would probably say no, because I didn't hear about it. So, you know, Dan Gibbs is a renowned planner, and he said that you don't allow developers to come into your area and tell you what they want to build. You tell them what's right for the area. So in knowing that area as well as I do, I don't think that having this many units on a small piece of property with the amount of traffic that comes out from 12 Mile, near Inkster, near Northwestern Highway, as fast as it goes, and you're talking about a place for seniors, they're going to want to drive on 12 Mile with a conference center that's going to be built there. So it tells me that you didn't really do your homework if you didn't invite those people, since all municipalities have an adjoining baseline. And we know that Inkster separates Southfield from Farmington Hills on 12 Mile. So that's a concern that I have. You mentioned in your little description there, a reflection room. What is a reflection room when you're talking about a rehabilitation facility versus single houses, detached houses that you want to sell? Another thing that, you know, it seems like the big focus is Robertson's Homes building this particular structure, as opposed to the rehabilitation services that you're alleging you're going to offer versus the side where people are going to live that don't need the rehabilitation services. So the only thing I've been able to find out about your company tonight is you do not have eco-friendly accreditation. So I'm thinking, what is eco-friendly accreditation? Because I'm not real savvy to all of this, but I know that it's using or not using environmentally friendly materials and appliances when you build your structures. So I don't know how this is going to tie into that, but I think that this council should not let the ink on the rubber stamp be used. I think you need to find out more clarification on the side that's rehabilitation versus the side that's going to be homes, because it looks like to me you're using this Optalis Healthcare as a shield to just build houses there.
Okay, I'm gonna put a hold on this for a minute. because I love you, but I don't want the developers to be.
I don't mean that disrespectful, I'm going by what
I
you told
understand,
me.
but first of all, this has been a 3-year project.
Yes,
They're dealing with a historic site.
Yes,
The
Sarah
reflection
Fisher.
room, the reflection room is part to accommodate the preservation of a historic chapel. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, the materials that will be used for building these projects will be recaptured from the developments that they're taking down in order to put this up.
Like repurposing.
Repurposing, which is green.
Like Northland.
Number
and
three,
Southfield.
we were never informed by Southfield that they're putting in a conference center. And we followed all of the notice procedures for the area and for the law that are required. So the conference center was abatement property, and it was further down, so it's further east of where we are here and outside of the range of where we would normally send notices to.
It's right where Sherrydale is, which is the only street on that side.
Well, it's further down. The two condo projects that you're talking about are further to the east than that, and we're not required to notify them either.
What is the required notification, ma'am, if I may ask? Is it 300 feet, 500, or 1,000? 300 feet, okay.
300 feet.
Be notification from my office, not from the development.
Okay.
Right, and so there is no shielding. This has been a very open process along the way. And we have dealt with this project. They've even changed builders of the residential portion in order to come in and accommodate a higher quality to further match with the development that is to the west of where this is going into. And so when you hear council talk about why they are so happy that they've listened to us, I can assure you that this has not been rubber stamped. Had it been rubber stamped, Mr. Patel would have saved an awful lot more money and would have not had to meet with changes first that had to be dealt with through the Historic District Commission that Council Member Knoll, who serves as our liaison on that commission, graciously helped usher through so that we could preserve what we need to preserve. The gating and all of the signage that will be on this property will maintain the historic character. And so what you're seeing tonight is the final iteration, maybe, of a project that has been multiple years, multiple meetings, both between planning and city council and the neighbors and the neighborhood and our engineering department, and looking at other credits that may be available to help them accomplish what they need to accomplish, because currently this site is not on the tax rolls at all because it was a nonprofit organization.
Right.
So what we're seeing tonight is the culmination of many years of struggle, of effort, of careful consideration, of a change in the builder of the housing section. And I will tell you that while I understand your comments, what we're dealing with here is a project that has been very well thought out and very detailed and been in the works for a long time. And I don't want to take too much more time on that, but I do want you to wind up your comments, and I do appreciate them. But I just want everybody to know that this builder, this project is a unique use, especially considering the grading, the Rouge River tributaries that are here, and in dealing with a 2-lane road, we need to deal with sewer issues and everything else, and they've been very amenable to all of the things that have slowly risen up and popped up as they floated to the top in this 3-year process.
Well, if my memory serves me correctly, the property was for sale for a long time, and I think it eventually went down to about $2 million to buy. So, you know, for such a historical property, to me, that just says a whole lot, in terms of how long it was vacant. But I guess I wanted the focal point to not be on the houses, but on the rehabilitation and the company that was there on the first page or two, the Optalis company. I'd like to hear more about the company, the reviews, whether or not the staffs are underpaid, overworked, in your facilities that you have. Do you have enough staff, adequate for the amount of people that you have there? You know, it's more than just the housing and the fact that this is historical and that you haven't been able to sell it. If you're going to have, or the company wasn't able to sell it, if you're going to have anything to do with seniors and rehab, that has got to be the focal point, because so many of our seniors and these types of facilities are not being treated in the best way or cared for in the best way. So I'm not impressed with the housing and the material and the updated fixtures and all of that. Tell me about the seniors. Do you have adequate things for them to engage in their rehabilitation on the site? For the people that are visiting them, will they be able to come out and drive and get out on 12 Mile without the traffic jam? I want to hear about that, because your reviews, Optalis, or however you say your name, are not that good.
Well, they are chartered by the state. They will be monitored by the state, and unfortunately, we don't have the licensing duties here. And it's not just for seniors, it is for rehabilitation regardless of the age of the patient, so, okay. So, bringing it, is there anybody else who wants to speak during public?
Scott Elliott.
Mr. Elliott.
Hello, I'm Scott Elliott, and I'm the longtime realtor on this site, as you guys know. I sold this site 6 years ago to Evangelical Homes of Michigan, whom hope to build a senior facility. However, this is a major project requiring major players to pull it off, and they got over their head. They just could not do it. So we have brought the property, and Raj and Optalis, his team. Optalis is a first-class operator of skilled nursing facilities. They acquired the Beaumont facilities here in town. They have a number of them. They do a great job all around town. So this is something that is needed in Farmington Hills because it's not here right now. So this will be an excellent addition. And Robertson Homes is a first-class developer of homes. This will shore up the eastern side of our community, the gateway to our community there at 12 and Northwestern and so on and so forth. So this is going to be an excellent development. The team has worked closely with the folks in the neighborhood behind, so they have their approval. That's taken place. I've spoken with Mr. Griffin about it, and he was okay with it. So he's ready to move forward. So I think this is a great development. We appreciate your consideration of this, hopeful approval. The conference center that she's referencing, I'm not certain that is going to be built. I understand that site may be on the market for sale. Those kind of facilities are very difficult right now and really haven't come back following COVID. I don't know that for sure, but I will check into it. However, we appreciate your consideration tonight. And I don't know if Raj wants to add anything else about his company. He knows it better than I do, but I do know that they are first-class operators of skilled nursing facilities.
Yeah, and I have 3 hotels and a conference center that you.
I'm sorry, what?
3 hotels and a conference center that are very available for use.
Well, yeah, we'll save that one for another discussion. I have
Yes,
opinions on
absolutely.
that, but that's another night.
Okay, anybody else from the public? Seeing none, I will officially close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Mr. Bridges?
I have a motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
May offer it. Resolve that the application for approval of revised PUD Plan 2 2021, including SP 59-5 2022, is granted, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall post a cash deposit or irrevocable and automatically renewing letter of credit with the city in a form, manner, and amount acceptable to the city engineer and city attorney to ensure and guarantee completion of the improvements for the planned unit development according to a schedule approved by the city engineer. Number 2, any conditions and requirements stated in Giffords Weber's review shall be complied with or addressed to the satisfaction of the planning of the Planning and Community Development Department. Number 3, any conditions and requirements stated in the review of the city engineer and city fire marshal are complied with or addressed to the satisfaction of the city engineer and fire marshal. Number 4, public sanitary sewer service access needs shall be provided to 12 Mile Road to the satisfaction of the city engineer. And further resolve that the city attorney prepare the appropriate PUD agreement stipulating the final PUD approval conditions and authorizing the identified zoning deviation for city council consideration and final approval.
Is there a support? It's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by Ms. Knoll. Is there further discussion? Ms. Bower?
Yes. I'd like to thank the developer for all the changes that have been made and working with our Historic District Commission, the homeowners that to the north of the site. I like the changes that you have made so far, how the facade of the homes, some of the interiors, what Robertson has done and come back with. In the document that I received, number 18, which is on page 11, it talks about the relief sought from ordinance standards, and there are 4 of them. But one in particular concerns me because our consultant is not, well, from what you can verify is what, the 18-foot parking space length in front of the garages of the more attainable townhomes that's abuts Inkster Road. I know that you had mentioned that the garages are 20 feet in length, but earlier I heard our consultant say some cars are more than 20 feet. And I would think that because these are more affordable, or not attainable, I should say, that you're gonna have a younger resident there because there's a lot of steps. I can't see seniors navigating a lot of steps. It's gonna be younger people, and they usually like larger cars, trucks, larger vehicles. So I'm asking, what can we do? I've heard Councilman Knoll talk about that earlier, and there's a problem or there's some challenges with lengthening that from 18 to 20.
Yeah, so I had sort of spoken to that earlier. One of the options would be to take the 30-foot deviation down to 26, and I know that that's getting closer to Inkster, but I just don't believe we have the room really to shift to the west to accommodate the 4 feet, the 2 feet for each side. I did look at it. It looks like our drive aisle is 24 feet. We've gone down to 22 feet in other scenarios, but again, I think engineering is going to require 24 feet. So that really kind of leaves us with the option of moving 4 feet closer to Inkster. So, that would basically be, if F isn't permitted, really I would push for D to be 26 feet. And again, I don't know the engineering. I know we've got some grade as we come down off of Inkster. It might mean some more retaining walls in places. But to us, it is important to have the distance we have right now between the townhomes and the detached condominiums. I think that's very important. I think we're really as close as we want to be. So I would continue to push for 18. We'll have to sell them. We'll have to have the HOA, mandate that it's only 18 feet. It's only for guest parking because there is garage spaces.
But the garage is only 20 feet. And
Garage is only 20 feet.
I heard like a 20.5 or 21.
That's our
feet
typical.
long.
Our typical is 20 by 20. Then that's this type of buyer is just wouldn't have a Yukon XL, right? I mean, they're buying the house that works for them. So, and this buyer wouldn't have a need for a Yukon XL. But again, we're only talking about the guest spaces behind the units at 18 feet. So,
I'm sorry, you're talking about the guest space?
Yes, so each
behind the unit?
Yes, each unit would have either a 1-car or 2-car garage, and then the spaces, and those would be 20 by 20. What we're talking about are the spaces in the apron behind the units. That would be 18 feet until the drive aisle. So it would only be for guests as they come, and then there are parking spaces on both sides, to the north of the townhomes and to the south of the townhomes, that would allow for larger vehicles if they need it. So we would continue to push, to have the 30-foot front along Inkster, but then have 18-foot parking spaces. Maybe there's a way, maybe it's 19 feet and then the 28-foot setback along Inkster. I'd let you, decide that. That's just something I have in my head. But it is very important to us to keep that distance as we have right now from the townhomes to the detached condominiums, just because the grade is very difficult to work with right now.
I'd like to address our consultant then. You had mentioned this earlier in your presentation. So could you talk a little bit about, why you're supporting the 20 feet as opposed to the 18?
Sure.
feet?
Pardon me. Because there's a couple of factors you have to take in consideration. So these are apron spaces. They could be for visitors, or if someone has their garage full of stuff, that may be where they park every day is on the apron. The other issue with that is that there is a shy distance from the garage door to where you park your car. You don't pull your car up and actually touch your garage door, right? Usually there's about a foot.
It's happened.
It's not supposed to. You usually probably have an expense then, but usually there's a shy distance of about a foot. And sometimes more, maybe a foot and a half. So from a practical standpoint, it's really more like 17 and a half feet if you have an 18-foot drive. And we do see a number of developments around the region where these shorter aprons are put in and the vehicles are overhanging into the traveled way. And I don't think that's good planning practice. And the 20-foot, although it's not perfect, I think it doesn't necessarily cover the largest truck. That's not really the goal here. It's designed for the biggest vehicle there is in the world. But I think if you do 20 feet, you're going to accommodate a substantial majority of the vehicles that are out there that are likely to park. And I think that's why you have that as your standard. And I think that standard makes sense. And so that's just our opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, you wanted to say something, please.
I respect Mr. Arroyo and his comments completely on that. Just to speak, and again, I'd mentioned it, the HOA just simply will not allow a homeowner to park in their driveway rather than the garage. They will not let them fill it up and then have to park outside. I can guarantee you, I've been doing this a long time. That is not acceptable. So, I'd again say that's important to us. The other thing is, yes, I guess there would be a shy space, but typically when you're going to, say, somebody's single-family home, you park and then you walk in front of your car to the front door. All the front doors are on actually the other side. So they're just using that as parking, and then they would be walking around to the other side. So it's not like they have to park and then squeeze their way through to get to the front door. So, again, I'm trying to save the space between the townhomes and the condos, because I think that's very important. Knowing that that'll be something that the homeowners of the townhomes they'll have to deal with, that their guests will have to deal with.
Okay, yes, Ms. Nolan?
I would be brutally honest. I don't like the idea of a nursing home on this corner, and then we have Giannopolis down at Middlebelt with nothing on it, and potentially a nursing home there, and then another nursing home at Orchard Lake. I just think it's a very bad, I'll say, it's not a good look for the city to have a nursing home on every single corner. And I know you say it's rehab, but it's skilled, it's a nursing home. I know reality, I'm a better nurse. I appreciate Robertson. You guys have done a magnificent job trying to reorganize this. But for me, it still doesn't bring to the city what I think we need, which is families. I don't see a place where children go out into a yard and play. I don't see those employees that would be working at this nursing home being able to afford even a garage on any of this development, because they're not making enough money to even afford a $200,000 property, let alone homeowner association fees. I would never buy a $500,000 home at the back door of the nursing facility. So, as I say, I've never been a great supporter of this. If it was all homes, it'd be one thing, but I'm not supportive of this nursing home on this corner. Let alone, then the other thing I'm also concerned about is not very walkable, because right now you got the townhouses within now 30 feet versus 50 feet of Inkster. there's no sidewalks for even the detached homes either, and you've got people walking, if they're going to be pushing maybe a stroller or something, where do children ride bicycles? I don't see it happening.
Sure.
Just quickly on the walkways, we did add a sidewalk on the west side of the detached condominiums. We did not have sidewalks before, so we did add a sidewalk there. And there is a sidewalk that doesn't exist today, but we'll be putting it from I forget the street on the north, but our north property line all the way, Cheswick, thank you, all the way down to 12 miles. So I do agree there's probably some opportunities for more interconnectivity, which I think we'd want to take a look at. But right now, from an engineering standpoint, we have, the rain gardens and things like that. Our thought is there is some opportunity to kind of have a combined walkway / fire lane, which sounds weird, but we have done it before, behind the skilled nursing facility, which would then connect to the sidewalks in the detached condos, which then connect to the townhomes. So we did think that through. I think it's better than a previous iteration. We just have some site challenges to make that probably as much as you'd like it.
And I'll simply address, I guess clarify, not to address your concern, just to clarify that this facility is not an assisted living facility. This might be your, just to be clear, this is not an assisted living facility. This is a skilled nursing facility, licensed and controlled by the CON issue in the state and in the county, which it's unlikely that there'll be any other nursing homes being built. There'll be assisted living, which is a totally different product. It's a totally different type of service. It doesn't do what we do. And so if there are other assisted livings that may get approved, you approve, they will be complementary to this, not competing with it. So I just want to clarify that if it wasn't clear.
Okay, anyone else? I'm just going to say that it's not my job to tell you how to run your business. It's my job to look at land use and the best thing possible for the city of Farmington Hills. And I want to thank you both for your time, energy, consideration, and assistance. The only thing I can offer on that 20 feet is maybe shave a foot off of the downstairs, the first floor, and maybe put some pillars on the side so that people can, I don't know, you guys are more creative in building houses than I am, so I leave it to you to figure out the 20 feet. I know you will get there because you've gotten everywhere else before, so I trust you. Are we ready to take a vote? This is a regular vote. All those in favor of the motion at hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It passes 6.
No, I didn't say aye.
Oh, all those opposed?
Right. Aye.
Okay. So we have 1 opposed and 5 on board and 1 absent. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is consideration of approval of appointments to various boards and commissions.
Okay. Okay, Madam Mayor. Ken, got it? Ken?
Dr. Massey?
Dr. Massey?
I'm ready to make a motion. I would move for the appointment to the Commission on Community Health of Molly David to complete an unexpired term to end on 1 February 2025. For Parks and Rec, Mr. Steve Linville, for an unexpired term to end on 1 February 2025. And to the Beautification Commission, Alex Clark, for an expired term to end on 1 February 2025.
Okay. It's been moved by Dr. Massey, supported by Councilmember Knoll. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those opposed? Oh, good. Very nice, thank you. Next is new business. Number 8, consideration of approval of, oh, we did that. Number 9, consideration of approval of the stipulation in order to amend consent judgment for the property located on Westbrook Court, south of Utley Drive. Hello, it's Charmaine night.
It is. Charmaine Kettler-Schmaltz of the Planning and Community Development Office. We have an amendment to the consent judgment before you tonight. It's number 122, and I just rearranged my papers here. Hold on 1 second. Okay. A little background for you. This location is off of Middle Belt, north of 12 Mile Road. Connects to Liaison Westbrook Court. Back in 2005, a previous property owner appeared before the Board of Appeals to obtain variances to construct a single-family dwelling, attached garage and deck. That appeal was denied, and the owner went to circuit court. Subsequently, the parties entered into a consent judgment to resolve the case, permitting construction of a single-family home, attached garage and deck, as was shown on the documents in your packet. The owner also was to install and maintain landscaping that is shown as attachment C. That dwelling was never constructed. The subject property remains vacant. A new owner, who is with us tonight and has endured the whole evening, is requesting a variance, well, an amendment to that consent judgment in order to construct a home that is of her choosing instead of someone else's from 2005. The Homeowners Association, Wood Creek Civic Association, has sent a letter in support of this new plan, and our city attorney's office has participated in the proposed amendment to that consent judgment. They have no legal objections to city council proceeding with the approval. In summary, the new plan indicates a smaller variant from our zoning ordinance in size and setback. In fact, they are also proposing to plant one additional tree beyond what was in the original consent judgment. So if you have any questions on that, I am here, and the owner of the property is also here if there are questions for her.
Okay, any comments, questions?
No, I'll enter a motion.
Okay.
I'll move to approve and authorize the city manager and city attorney to sign on behalf of the city the stipulation and order to amend consent judgment and submit name to the court for entry into the case of Elena Renza Ea. Thank you. Successor to Jack Douglas Taylor versus City of Farmington Hills, Oakland County Circuit Court Case Number 05067071-AA.
Support.
It's been moved by Ms. Knoll, supported by Mr. Bridges. I just wish we knew that we could have covered this quicker and moved it up on the agenda.
Right.
That would have been probably a kindness that we didn't do tonight, and I apologize. Any further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Welcome. We wish you success in building your new home. Thank you very much. And that brings us to adjournment.
How about a motion to adjourn?
I would love one.
I would move that we adjourn.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
No second.
No second.
The motion does.
We're stuck here because it dies for lack of a second. Who's seconding it? Come on.
Second.
Oh, thank you.
News to news. That's not good.
It's been moved by Ms. Knoll, seconded by Ms. Bolaware, that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Good night, Farmington Hills.